Well, hey, what's up and welcome. So excited that we're able to join on here together again tonight. Looking forward to a great time together. And I actually think we have a lot to talk about. So I can't wait to hear your perspective on it. First thing we're going to talk about is the lack of physical evidence that the police are now coming out with saying it's happening in the Brian Laundrie case. But before we get there, let me know where it is you're watching from. One of my favorite parts is knowing that literally there are people all around the world that are watching this video. So go ahead and just type it in the comments. Where are you watching from? So we have Hillsboro, Oregon, North Carolina, Virginia, San Antonio, Texas. Hey, Tyler from Toronto, Virginia, from Taiwan. Are you really in Taiwan? That would be cool if you are. Houston, Texas, South Carolina, Ontario, Massachusetts, Ohio, Indiana, Long Island, New York, all the way from South Africa, Grenada, and the Caribbean. Thank you for joining us from the Caribbean or Caribbean. I don't know what the right way to pronounce that is. Illinois, Ohio, North Carolina, Riversdale, California, Montana, Windsor, California. People are tuning in from everywhere today. They said, yes, really, they're from Taiwan. Pennsylvania, that's the place. Is this the place where they do the groundhog thing in Pennsylvania? That'd be really cool. Illinois, New Zealand, Missouri, the Show Me State, Winston-Salem in the house. Thank you guys for tuning in from all over the place. Do me another favor just as we're getting started. It's something that helps us get shift out there into the YouTube algorithm, which is really important because we need all eyes on finding justice for Gabby. Here's how you do it. It's really simple. Just hit the like button. Can you help me out today? Hit the like button. And I was reading the analytics, and about 90% of people who are watching this stream are not subscribed. So a lot of them are returning people, which means you continue to watch this. You continue to watch this stream. You're coming back, but for some reason you haven't hit that subscribe button yet. So go ahead, if you wouldn't mind, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, hit the like button. It's going to shoot us out into that algorithm. We'll get more eyes on finding justice for Gabby. M. Malik 49 says, yeah, justice for Gabby. All right, listen, that's what we're after together. And so thank you guys. Excited about the conversation that's going to come. I wanted to cover this article that the New York Post came out with today because I found it interesting in the sense that we have speculated about some campsites, some physical evidence that might exist. And so, according to police in the Brian Laundrie search, there's been no physical evidence found. Police said they have yet to find any physical evidence connected to Brian Laundrie in a sprawling Florida nature reserve where he's believed to be hiding. Laundrie has been the object of a manhunt at the Carlton Reserve near his family's home in Northport, Florida, since his girlfriend, Gabby Petito, was found dead in Wyoming. Authorities will continue to comb the nature preserve for clues to Laundrie's whereabouts. Northport policeman spokesperson Josh Taylor told CNN on Friday. Northport confirmed this week that there's been an abandoned vehicle notice placed on the Ford Mustang on September 14th. Laundrie's parents went to the park searching for their son, saw the notice. A day after Laundrie said he was headed to the reserve, according to attorneys. The Laundries brought the vehicle home the next day. So a lot of that we already knew. However, there's been speculation about exactly what type of evidence was available or that they had. There's a specific interview that Brian Itten gave to the police spokesperson, which is very unusual for a police spokesperson to be giving an interview and even letting information out at this point, especially considering that the Northport police is no longer in charge of this investigation. Instead, the FBI is in charge of it. But I thought you would find pieces of this interview with the Northport police spokesperson interesting. Hey, if you're just tuning in, I want us to dissect this video together and work our way through it. But if you don't mind hitting the like button on that video, it shoots us out into the YouTube algorithm, and that's a good thing.
I was here when the police chief had the press conference and said, we have our eyes on Brian Laundrie. We know where he is. And we're not going to tell the media, but we know where he is. And then I think it was the next day that suddenly he was missing. I mean, how did that happen?
Well, I think you have a situation where working on intelligence. You're working on the best that you have. And I think what I'll tell you is that at no time did we make, we weren't lying. We weren't trying to say something to anybody. We were holding that press conference to be transparent about what was going on. I mean, and what would be in our benefit to say that if we thought it wasn't true? No investigation's perfect.
Was he under surveillance? I mean, did you have eyes on him?
What I'll say to that is that we were doing everything within the law that we could with the facts and the circumstances that were at that time.
Do you have any idea how he got away?
What I'll say is that
somebody, if you guys don't mind, just think about what he's saying, what the law is on surveillance. We've had a deep conversation about this since the beginning. And as long as he's not invading their privacy, as long as he's not going through their trash, there's not really a whole lot of laws surrounding exactly surveillance. He said we did everything inside of the law to surveil him. I don't think that they have to have much to be able to have permission to surveil him. So there's more to that statement than they're letting off to be. I wonder if the Northport police is under either local pressure or national pressure or pressure with other institutions like the FBI or other agencies, sort of looking into some of it and saying, well, as we think a little bit deeper about this situation, you guys were pretty negligent in some areas. I'm not saying that that's what was happening. I'm just saying that inside the bounds of the law of surveillance, there's not a whole lot going on there. There's not a whole lot of law that, speculation you have to be able to surveil somebody. So he was, to me, that statement I thought wasn't a full statement based on the research. If you guys think back to a previous stream, whenever we were looking into what it took to surveil somebody. Maureen, I want to welcome you to being a part of the Feller fam. Congratulations. We need 13 more members today, and then we'll be able to add another emoji. But we did add a special Gavlock emoji. So we have a brand new Gavlock emoji that we added today. And I hope you guys like it. If you have ideas on what our next emoji should be, let me know. If we get 13 members today, then they'll allow us to add another emoji, which I think is really cool. The more emojis, the better. And I just think it's a really cool thing that they let us do. If you look, it's a detective holding up a little detective glass, and I think that's really cool. Southern Girl Jen saying, welcome Maureen to the Feller fam. Welcome Maureen to the Feller fam. So let's listen to some more of what this police officer has to say. I just thought it was peculiar that he said that in the way that he said that, based on what we have learned about surveillance. And do me a favor, hit the like button on the video.
That is a consistent something that we're working to figure out. As far as how we got away, I don't even know how to answer that.
Well, what I mean is, if he was staying with his parents at the house, and I was out there were a lot of police outside the house a lot of the time.
Why didn't you see him?
I didn't see him, and I was out there. Police were out there. I mean, we've heard stories. Could he have gone out a back door? Could he have, run through a yard? I mean, do you have any idea?
Yeah, no. I think certainly what the family has told us is that he drove out to the park and walked out into the woods. I think that is certainly on the table.
Do you believe the family at this point? Is there reason to not believe them?
Yeah. At this point, everything that I've learned and we figured out is I don't know necessarily what to believe anymore. I think it's certainly possible that they're expressing what they know, but we'll see. I mean, this is an ongoing investigation that will continue to evolve. And, I think you saw yesterday the family was out there helping in the search. I think, it's a sign of them trying to work with investigators. So I hope that is, the beginning to maybe more of what they know.
Is there anything more you can share with the Mustang situation? Because so many people are confused that he drove in the Mustang and then his parents would go get the Mustang and bring it back without him. I mean, it doesn't really make sense in some ways.
No, I agree with that. I mean, we've said from the beginning, there's a lot of oddness here, a lot of things that just didn't make sense. I mean, if your son walks out there, now they're saying on a Monday, to report that on a Friday, and then be confused on what day that was. I mean, there's a lot of things that are odd there.
Based on what you do know, do police believe that Brian Laundrie is still alive?
It's possible. I certainly think that it would not surprise me if he is. Wouldn't surprise me if he's not.
Is it 50-50 in your mind? Do you have an inkling one way or the other?
I mean, I guess if we had to put odds on it, I would say that that's probably pretty close. You know, I think I don't want to. We've gotten in a little bit of an issue by thinking we knew something, you know, and I just don't know that it does any good to say, oh, I think he's alive or dead. I think it's certainly possible one way or the other.
So interesting to hear police say that right now. They think it's basically 50-50 whether or not Brian Laundrie is dead or alive. They were pretty forthcoming with many things in that interview. Other things they told us they couldn't talk about because of the FBI. And you have to imagine there's a lot that police know, obviously, that they're not putting out to the public. Marnie?
Right. It struck me, Brian, he just said a lot of oddness. I mean, you can clearly tell in his hesitation to even answer your questions. He's thinking about what he can share. But clearly just a lot of holes that we all agree just don't add up at this point. So I wonder if the FBI right now is in control of the investigation. What role is Northport Police playing in all of this, if any?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the FBI is definitely in control. They are the lead agency. They're controlling everything. I asked that question today, and I was told that Northport PD does have a seat at the table. That's how they described it. And I can tell you, at least here in Northport, and with the search at the reserve.
He was saying Northport police have a seat at the table. I kind of got this suspicion after listening to this interview that Northport's seat at the table is going to be somewhat diminished after this conversation, because I just felt like there were definitely parts of it with that. At least that spokesperson didn't handle very well. Could you imagine telling a reporter, when you're the spokesperson of the police who was supposedly doing everything within legal bounds to keep an eye on somebody who is a person of interest, and now what's being labeled as a homicide, you tell a reporter, why didn't you catch him, or why didn't you see him? I thought that was fascinating statement, very defensive in a sense of how you would handle an interview. I don't know, if when we think about the Northport police, if they're used to dealing with the FBI and dealing with things of this level of magnitude. So there's more to it probably than we realize, but maybe when they were hiring a spokesperson, they weren't hiring somebody they thought would be on national media that, all of the world would be watching, trying to digest and figure out what was going on with. And then whenever he's in this situation, it ends up being a difficult conversation because he wasn't ready for some of the questions that were being handed to him. And the questions it felt like that Ryan was asking weren't even the difficult ones. To me, there was some definite conversations that could have been being given with that spokesperson that would have been a much more difficult answer than what Brian said. Were you guys surveilling? Well, we did everything within the law. Well, I was out there trying to watch as well. Well, why didn't you catch him? That's a terrible thing to say. I want to shout out Susan JBCO for the super chat. She said, "Thank you for creating a safe place for important and compelling discussion." Listen, thank you so much, Susan, for that. This is a very important discussion that we're having. Everyone in this chat, we're on a journey together to help find justice for Gabby, help find Brian. And, thank you for saying that. We're trying to create a clean environment here. We're going to allow you guys in just a little bit to get on the call with us and share your viewpoints. Make sure you keep your language down. This is a no cursing channel. And for us, it's important that from my perspective, we're honoring God with everything we do. And that includes being involved in situations like this, looking at cases. Hey, do me a favor as we're just getting started on the live stream. Can you guys hit the like button? Go ahead and hit that like button. When you hit that like button, what it does is it shoots you out into our whole stream out into a YouTube algorithm. More people join, and the more people that join, the better. The more chances that we have, according to John Walsh. When we get more eyes on it, the more people they're going to be able to help find justice for Gabby. And that's what we want. That's what we're after here. We're after finding justice for Gabby. So if you guys don't mind doing that, that would be great. Just looking at some of the comments as they're coming through. Thank you guys for participating in the chat today. And I really appreciate some of the thoughts that you guys have to say and some of the perspective that you have that's different. Thank you, Nikki, for the super chat. It means a lot that you would send that over. And this Lita says, yeah, this guy is not the brightest noodle to hire as a communication rep for the Northport Police Department. And that's true. It depends on what type of communication that they're used to giving. I think there'd probably be some level of communication that's written, and maybe most of their communication is written. So a lot of people are much better at written communication. It can go through a couple eyes. People can, do a pass over it to make sure it sounds right. And then when you're actually giving an interview and having to answer questions verbally, sometimes that can be more difficult, especially whenever you're in a situation where you may not know exactly what they're going to be asking. Thank you, Stephen, for becoming a YouTube member today. You joined Maureen. And like I was saying earlier, if we get 13 members today, they're going to allow us to add a new emoji. So that's going to be pretty cool if that's able to happen. Livania says, Brian's parents didn't care at all about Gabby's disappearance. Certainly didn't feel like they cared at all about Gabby's disappearance. And it felt like they didn't care about their own kid, Brian's disappearance. So I don't know if that's their demeanor or what. So CJ, quit commenting the same thing every single time. We saw it the first 5 times you sent something. How long will the police search for him if the case becomes cold? I saw an interview where they were asking some people, like, is this a cold case? Asking John Walsh, is this a cold case? Is this going to become a cold case? And his statement, like, this is far from a cold case right now. It's far from being a cold case. And as long as they have consistent leads coming in, I don't think that they're going to be hopping into considering it a cold case and not continuing on with their search. Thank you, Maggie, for the super sticker. It means a lot. I like that green pair that you sent. Mary Beth, thank you so much for the super chat. It means a lot. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel in this way. Really, really appreciate it. Vicky says Gabby was pregnant. There's no evidence to prove that Gabby was pregnant. Sometimes there's people on YouTube and other social media channels that are doing things to make you feel like things are true that are not true. And that happened to be one of the situations, in my opinion. There's a lot of fake news surrounding this. People are doing everything they can do to sort of get their 10 minutes of fame. And so they'll overanalyze video footage to see things that were not there. And in the case of Gabby's so-called pregnancy, what ended up happening was there's some like little things that the Parks Department would put on some logs that they didn't want removed for various reasons. And it looks similar to what a sonogram would look like. However, they're on several different logs. There's no possible way that it was a sonogram picture, and sonogram pictures are very flimsy and very thin. So what are the chances that one would just fall and land perfectly on a log right next to another log that has a very similar notice that looks the same from the Parks Department? So people analyze the video and just make something out of nothing, and that's really an inappropriate way to handle when we're really in a search trying to find justice for Gabby. It's really inappropriate, in my opinion, to try to speculate things that are so off the wall that's going to lead people down the wrong path. That's why one of the reasons here we allow different theories to come into play, but we always say, hey, like, this is our theory, this is speculation. Let's take a second and look at some of the facts around it. And so I just want to remind you guys, be very careful about the things that you see and hear, because they're not guaranteed to be true. Be very careful about the things that you see and hear. And a lot of people are going to stretch stuff. Glinda says, where's she going to get a sonogram on a trip across the country? I mean, that's a point. I've saw some little like 4D, I guess it is, pregnancy places where you can go and it's just like a little shop, like a little tiny shop, and and it's not a doctor's office. People just want a 4D picture of their child and they'll go in there and get that. So like, I think that's possibly something that's real, but I just don't think it was probably what she was doing. Nicole says there's just no way the autopsy is not back yet And I'm sure they've had more than enough evidence to charge Brian with murder. They're just wasting time. I think they're being very specific and strategic on why they haven't officially named a person of interest for the homicide. And part of that is because they don't want to spoil some chances at if he is guilty and the court ended up getting an innocent verdict. And so they're being very specific and strategic about how they're handling the situation. It's why they charged him with using somebody else's accessory device or access device, basically using Gabby's debit card. It's why they charged him with that. So that's sort of the story behind that, Nicole. Somebody says pregnancy test. We weren't talking about a pregnancy test. We were talking about an actual sonogram. So I want to show you guys a video too of a former FBI agent who then went and made some statements on the interview. She went on News Nation and she begins to talk about the interview that Brian Inton had with that Northport police officer, and she gives her perspective on why it was weird or why it was normal. And I thought you guys would enjoy it.
Talking at all today. Brian's easy to talk to, though. Were you surprised, and what do you make of what he said?
Yes, I was surprised. The majority of my background with the FBI was with task forces and embedded in police departments. And when the FBI takes the lead in an investigation, it is very unusual for a local PD to give an interview regarding that investigation, especially when the FBI isn't even giving any information about that investigation.
Right. So what would be the motivation, you think, in them talking? They certainly have been under some criticism in their involvement up until now.
I think that is the reason why they have stepped forward. I think they have been under a lot of criticism for Brian Laundrie being lost, for getting out of their surveillance eye, if indeed he was under surveillance, and other facets of the investigation. And I think that they're trying to come forward and give some information regarding why those things happened.
Didn't really clear it up, though. I mean, when Brian asked him about how they were surveilling Brian Laundrie and how he was able to slip away, he said, "We're working to figure that out."
Yes, my belief, based again on my experience, is that sometimes the head of the agency, in this case the chief, is briefed, but he's briefed by his under chief and then the person below that and the person below that. And sometimes the person that actually is on scene leading that surveillance group, leading the investigation, as the information goes up, it sometimes is not given out correctly.
Are there any consequences for local police coming out at this point and talking from the FBI? Will there be a conversation had later tonight? Hey, we didn't want you to do that.
There could be a conversation. I would not be surprised.
I want to talk about the Laundrie parents. They seem like the biggest thing that we can all collectively focus on right now, because somebody knows something. And their recollection of certain events is really being called into question. Some of the dates of when Brian may have went missing. If you're leading this investigation, how do you approach the parents? How are you handling the parents right now in questioning them, in keeping them involved?
Well, the biggest problem is for law enforcement is that they have retained counsel. And whenever counsel is retained, you just cannot broach talking to them. It's illegal. It's does not fall within the FBI rules and regulations. And it, quite frankly, could seriously taint the investigation later. So they are not going to talk to the Laundrie family, but through going through their attorney. So that's the biggest obstacle. The biggest questions I would have concerns the whole situation with the details surrounding this disappearance. The 14th, of course, first reported. Then the 17th, I should say, reported that he left. Right. The 17th reported missing. But why, if your son was missing, left all of his items in his room, his credit cards, everything that could be traceable, especially knowing that Gabby, his fiance, who he purportedly loved, why in the world would they not be hugely concerned, even on the 15th when he didn't return? Then they go to the precise spot in this 24,000 acre reserve where the car is. And instead of calling police at that point, come get this vehicle. My son, we can't find him. Can you please see? That's where you would make the police report. Instead, they drive it back. And the confusion about the date, it's all very, very concerning.
It just doesn't add up, right? As we watch this day and day after unfold, how critical could Cassie be? Brian Laundrie's sister, we heard her come out on her front lawn, spoke publicly about what she knows, more importantly, what she says she doesn't know about Brian and what has happened. How does she play into all of this as investigators piece all these dates and details together?
Well, I would definitely be focusing on her. And the reason is she has tried to come forward. I don't think she has been as forthright as she could be. I know a lot of that is because her family has asked her not to be forthright. That is, the FBI has not asked her not to talk, but she has made overtures several times. She begins to say something and then pulls back, looks at her husband. When I watch her talk, when it's about critical questions, she looks down, she changes her eye position. She does all the things we're trained to look at to see that somebody is not being candid.
What do you guys think about that? Because that's the first time that somebody, at least to that level that I've paid attention to, a former FBI agent, has came out and specifically said that Cassie Laundrie wasn't necessarily being fully forthright. She didn't say she was being dishonest. She said she wasn't being fully forthright, which I interpret to mean that she had a lot more that she could have revealed and then didn't reveal. And so what do you guys think about that? Like, just as I was listening to her, I was like, well, okay. I could totally, see that is something that was left on the table. And again, she was interviewed the first time, and I think the interview that this lady's talking about, it was an interview where she was talking about more specifically, like the situation that the protester was interviewing her in the yard, not the Good Morning America interview. And so when she's talking about that, it's like, well, I don't necessarily think, and I've said before, that she was expecting to come outside and confront the protesters, and then find herself inside of an interview in that way. So for those of you guys who may have some questions or want to talk today, I went ahead and I put the link in the top of the chat. And so if you guys want to join today, we'd love to have you guys join. And any questions you guys have, we'll do our best to answer them. And we're going to do our best to avoid speculation or to avoid things that are just totally not true. But we will have some theories that could be possible, but we'll make sure that we preface them by saying that these are just theories. Shelly, thanks for calling in today. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Sorry, Tyler. I was kind of lost my thoughts at the moment. I apologize.
Okay. No, it's all right.
I think you asked, I had two other topics I was wondering about that I would share, but then you asked, what do you guys think about what the lady just said about the behavior when Cassie was speaking? So I just thought I would share my thoughts. I follow this channel that has 4 professional behavior analysis people who've had a lot of experience in that. Yes, that's an awesome one.
I had one problem with them. Like, if you watch their first assessment of the body cam footage, they were so in favor of Brian. I didn't understand. Like, I told my friend, I'm like, well, maybe they're gonna. I'm like, I felt like once more information came out, they came out strongly against Brian. But before any information came out, they had they were like,
They
he's being
didn't pick
hyper
up on.
compliant, he's ready.
Right.
They weren't saying anything that I felt like was good. So anyways.
Gotcha. But what I wanted to mention about them, since I've watched them with so many different topics, is that they stress taking the time to get a baseline. Are you familiar with that before they start really
Yeah.
kind of judging? I mean, sometimes, like she said, looking down, often that can also be attributed to it's a strong feeling of looking down a little bit toward your stomach. And then looking a certain way with your eye glancing is retrieving an auditory message. So, I mean, I do think the things that she shared are, in my opinion, valid, but I think that it's hard to take the behavior analysis just off of a smaller clip, especially when they're emotional, had a higher emotional level. Those are my thoughts on that. What do you guys think?
I think you're right, but I had issues a little bit with their first video of what they were saying, and then one of the guys went on Dr. Phil, and I felt like he was saying the opposite thing on Dr. Phil than what he said on the first video that I watched, and I didn't like that. I'm like, for me, like I want to be consistent in the way that I think. So if somebody is really shifty on how they believe, it puts some caution towards me, and then I go back to like, all right, let's root whatever we're talking about in facts. Are you getting attacked by a duck also, or a goose?
Yes, and I didn't know if my talking parrot, I was not sure if she was gonna start saying I love you. I'm outside. I've done a lot of work outside, and so I didn't set up anything inside just yet. Sorry about that. Is it loud?
Well, we just are worried for your safety.
I have 7 ducks in a garden pond here, and there's one that loves to talk. She's always honking around about something, so she's probably chasing a bug. Should I turn my volume down for the next 2?
It's okay. Go ahead and move on. And
okay.
We have a couple people waiting, so.
Okay, I'll make it quicker then. And the first one I'll bring up out of my other 2 topics is the money situation, because I noticed Gavis yesterday. That seemed to be kind of on your mind a little bit more. And please correct me, because I couldn't find my sources today. But early on, before we found when she was a missing person, I believe, when Gabby was missing, I'm sorry I don't remember the reference, but I understood that she worked for a year or so in New York, saved not all of her money during that time, but saved a large portion of it. And then when she moved to Florida to live with Brian's family, the Laundries, she worked at like a successful juice bar type of place. And the plan was for her to save all of the money for this trip that she had been planning all the details out for like 9 months before they ever left, so that she would have some money saved up. On the other hand, I didn't find anything mentioned about Brian's financial.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think what you're saying about what was her job, the only job we know for sure she had was at the juice bar thing in Long Island, because there's a video of it, and then what she said in the footage. I heard a report that she worked at Publix, which is a grocery store, and it's likely that they were both working for the family business. So it's hard to exactly know what, like, everything that you're saying, we don't know for sure, I guess I would say.
Okay, so that helps me, because I had problems finding my nailing down the solid reference today.
Like, what happens is, like, people like me and other YouTubers get on here and we start saying things that are possible, and then like 4 or 5 days later, people are like, well, this is what happened. And it becomes a fact to them and it's removed. And then it's like, well, that's not really a fact because we don't have anything to link it to.
Maybe it was removed. So that helps clear up my mind. Okay. And the final one is, I do follow some van lifers. I've cut TV out of my life probably 15 years ago, but I watch YouTube to learn different things. And I have some that I follow. I've got to learn quite a lot just by being a Patreon and that kind of support. But the problem that's not really talked about much, and I hope to bring it to light just a bit. And if we have YouTubers or RV people on your site right now, maybe they can raise their hand or say me, comment, and increase the algorithm. But is that often the young women on these trips can become very depressed and not realize what's happening, become more emotional, crying sort of they felt like no reason. And at that age, it's difficult to sort out kind of what's going on. One of the, I'm going to call her a larger YouTube traveler star. I think they had traveled about 3 years. Died by suicide a few months back. And so that started some of the community kind of revealing that, yes, we've had some difficulty with.
Yeah, that's terrible to hear.
With that. Mm-hmm.
I've learned that it's like not a good idea to make broad sweeping characteristical analysis of any demographic. So I don't know if that's what was going on with Gabby or not. I will say she does not, in her own words, like being outdoors, and then she went on an outdoor adventure. So to me, that would be challenging. But we appreciate you calling in, Shelly. Thank you for supporting our channel.
Yes, I enjoy being a Feller fam. How's that help? Yay, take care.
Fam. And Avery just joined the Feller fam too. So thank you, Avery, for doing that. Thank you, Shelly, for calling in.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So our viewers shot up quite a bit in just about the past 5 minutes, and then they started to drop off. But part of the reason that they shoot up, and we want more people on the call, part of the reason that they shot up was because you guys are hitting the like button. And when you hit the like button on a video and when you subscribe, it sends it out into YouTube saying, listen, this is a video worth watching. And so if you're watching this video, if you're spending time and energy on it, please hit that like button. Kathy asked this question through a super chat. Thank you for the super chat. She said, do you think Gabby was pregnant? No, I don't think she was pregnant. And I went over it just a few minutes ago, but it was just people over analyzing videos and not really doing research around it. So Gavis, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
There's something I want to clear up with you that got a little weird last call that we didn't have a chance to talk about, and I don't want to deep dive on it yet, but I think we'll get there eventually in the call as far as it becoming a topic of conversation. But there was a statement that was either asked or said that made it seem like you didn't think Brian was no longer connected to Crystal and Kylan's. And it was like and I think it was a misunderstanding of like a question that was asked from like a super chat, and then the way you answered it made it seem like
I was confused by that too, because I've pretty much, since I nailed this down, I thought that there was a connection between them. So I was kind of taken off by that.
Well, I was even confused because I thought it was like maybe something you covered in your Twitch. And so then like after a bit of me getting towards the end of the call, I was like, oh, well, Gavis didn't change his mind. It made it sound like you had changed your mind and thought, initially, for people who don't know what's going on, initially Gavis didn't think that Brian was connected to Kylan and Crystal. And then after doing more research, he thought like he really thinks that they're connected. And then on our last call, there was sort of a statement that made it seem like Gavis didn't think they were connected any longer. And so I didn't know. I thought maybe Gavis had come out with the Twitch or something that said that. So I was kind of just rolling with it, and he was kind of rolling with it until it kept coming up. And then eventually at the end of the call, he's like, I don't know why people keep saying that. So I just wanted it to be in the clear. You still think Brian's connected to?
Yeah, and if anything, I've probably tightened up the timeline to when he actually killed her, which unfortunately might actually implicate Gabby being there. So I think it was late that night on the 13th or the early hours of the 14th.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah. I've never waffled. No, once I say something, that's what I stick to.
Oh, is that right?
Maureen, how are you?
Hi Tyler. Hi Gavis.
Thank you for joining the call today.
Sure. So, thank you for taking me.
Sure.
Shout out to Maureen Green, the other Maureen, my fan in Canada.
The other feller fan, Maureen.
Yes. And I'd like to start with a little timeline, little notes.
Okay.
I've been to Moab many times. In fact, my brother ran a air charter business there. You know, where you fly over the Canyonlands, you fly over the Arches, the LaSalles. And I just want to put some perspective in this from another person about some of the speculation that was going on with the residents and the tourists.
Okay.
And let me just explain to you that first, I want to start with the August 12th 911 call at the Moonflower Co-op. And it's kind of like what you did, Tyler, when you went to Casey's General Store in Benton, Illinois.
Yeah.
All right? Your feet were on the pavement,
Yeah.
inquiring from the manager. And that's excellent, because you can even get a fact like he was at pump number 6, which is far away from the cameras or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to go on. Perspective. The Moonflower Co-op is on like 100th Street. And you got 2 witnesses, one that called 911, and you got the other one that witnessed it and said, yo, you got it, bro. You called 911? He goes, yes, I saw it. And it's just like when you see a car accident and you're on this corner, you got 4 other people that saw it from different directions. The 911 caller initially called, saw the slap. He saw it from the very beginning. The second one, who Officer Eric interviewed, didn't probably see all of that. So you get the timing in there. Both of them were across the street, because one of them says, I was at the U.S. Forestry Service, which is right across the street from the Moonflower Co-op. And the other one says, I'm at the post office. They're both, if you even look at maps, they're right across the street. Another factoid, I'm going to play this in, is in Moab, which is now a population of 5,200 people. And you got August 12th, which is pretty much the apex of tourist season. You have got 3 times as much population because tourists are coming in and out. Campers, river rafters, parachuters, river guides, everything you can think of for outdoors. And that makes it where the locals really don't want to commune with the tourists. Typical tourist stuff, you know, it's just one of those things. So the 911 caller, the initial one, they didn't really investigate, which saw the slap, which saw the hit, which saw her climb in through the door on the driver's side. That's really sad. Brian was trying to control that. And then we get back to where some of your callers have called in and speculated, well, you know, one of them might have been Crystal, one of them might have been Kylan calling in. Absolutely not. No. Like I said, locals do not hang out with tourists. And the LaSalle Loop, where they were camping out, is 27 miles away. The only way they could get there and join them is that that initially offered. And that's just speculation. That is not fact. And you got those 3 perspective, Officer Robbins, Officer Pratt, and Eric Pratt, and then the Moab Park Ranger, Melissa Hulls, which we all thought that she at least kind of spoke some voice of reason, being female to female, about domestic violence. And then we don't hear anything basically from August 13th through August 23rd on social media. And on social media, no uploads, no nothing. And you know that Gabby, this girl, let's remember Gabby is a physically beautiful, probably internally beautiful. I mean, this girl was organized. You can see even in her pictures, they were picture perfect, which is not the real life of what we see in these YouTubers now. But she stayed at the Fairfield Inn. Now, let me tell you, You drive, and this is so, the odds are, because I'm from Colorado, I have family in Utah, and Salt Lake is not that far from Moab. You're looking at a 5.5-hour drive, right up 15. And I've actually stayed at that Fairfield with my daughter through an ice skating competition. And I'll let you know this, there's a Perkins right there. It literally has an indoor walkway. And when you go to that Fairfield at the Salt Lake Airport, they offer you free breakfast at Perkins. She had food the whole time. She never had to walk out. Nobody scamming her, scoping her at a pool or something like that, like your one caller said.
Don the U.S. Marshal.
Okay, enough said about that. And then that they do offer that. When you are checking as a guest at the Fairfield Inn, they offer you a free breakfast at Perkins. And they also offer you room service from Perkins, should you want something.
She must have got tired of Perkins because she was trying to order something and the Wi-Fi wasn't working. And so her dad ordered her some pizza from Domino's.
Yeah, I follow you. I follow you on that. Yes. And then there's the last thing I want to say, because I know that you got other callers coming, but a year before, my husband and I went to Grand Tetons. I'm sorry. There, I could do that's the Teton picture I took. Not too far from where she was from. That's called Elk Loop Range, where they have the horses and everything. And again, this is just, it's one speculation I have, and only one, because you don't want to put too much in the salad. It's not called a salad anymore. But we have Brian going back home, and he stays there for quite a spell of time, more than to empty out a locker. And my speculation is, because there's an old crime that's kind of like this, and it was in Texas, and it was called the Texas Cadet Killers. You have 3 teenagers that were involved in a love triangle. So what happened was, it was Diane Zamora, who's the mastermind, found out that her boyfriend, her fiance at the time, they're both accepted. One was accepted in the Naval Academy, and one was accepted into the Air Force Academy. And they found out that this cute girl named Adrian Jones had an affair, just like almost a one-night stand with the boyfriend. And the fiance female was furious. So they get this poor little girl in the car. She hits her with a barbell. She scrambles out of the car. They shoot her 2 gunshots, and they leave her to die. The case goes cold until the mastermind, Diana, starts bragging about it at the Naval Academy. They pull them all aside. So again, if you're Brian, you might have planned this. You have a little interim. You want to get rid of Gabby. It's sad. You beat her down to nothing, and it's inconvenienced. It's sad.
What do you think, Gavis?
Oh, I think Maureen's wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but it goes a lot deeper than this, Maureen. I just double-checked checked your time on Get to Salt Lake. It's only exactly 3 hours and 44 minutes. So it's not 6 hours.
I didn't say 6. Yeah, what about the 12th to the 16th, Gavis?
What would you like to know? Sorry. What are you asking about? You want the whole timeline right here?
Oh, no. I'm sure you have a good timeline. But
what would you like to know? What's bothering you?
No, nothing's bothering me. It's just that there was no uploads, nothing to feed up to their social media in that time.
Right.
And I think this fight was, don't do anything. Because again, they tried to resolve it with the Moonflower Co-op, where she was uploading it, and please stop it. Stop being mean. I'm sorry. I just want to get this done. He's like, well, we'll just put you in a hotel room. You can do whatever you want. But there was no uploads. Did you put that on your timeline?
Yeah, no, I mean, they could have been both at the same scene when they killed Kylan and Crystal and deleted all their information. So there would be no uploads. And why he came back home, I think he probably told his parents that he did something really bad, and they were going to take care of it for it, because this lawyer is way too prepared for this whole entire issue.
Well, they didn't hire. We don't know. Do you have the exact date when they hired the lawyer, Stephen Bertolino? No, neither do I.
I just know when the police showed up at the door, they handed him a paper that said, "This is our lawyer. Talk to him."
Which is way after Gabby's decease.
after she's reported missing.
Well, after
Okay.
she was deceased, but
21, it
before
was 21 days
public.
later. It was 21 days later that she was found.
Yeah, but it was definitely she was deceased by then.
Yeah.
So
Right.
to Maureen's point, she's saying maybe the parents knew that she was deceased, even though the public didn't.
Right. No, there's a lot of things that people have to put together to try to understand what's going on here, and it's difficult. It's not easy.
It is, and you can put too much in the salad and it's not considered a salad anymore. But what I'm trying to say is, I think Ryan is a creature of habit where he's not on the run. He is hiding out. He might even have a girl. He might. And a girl met him at the drive-in. There's no cameras.
I
There's
wouldn't
no
be
tire
surprised
marks.
if he had a girl. For
There you
some
go.
reason, there's a brand of people that are attracted to serial killers. I don't understand why.
The same ones that marry prisoners.
Yeah. How does that even make sense?
Well, I'll let you guys go. And thank you so much. God bless you. I really enjoy this. I've been here from day one. And thank you. All I have to say is thank you so much, Tyler. Bye, Gabby.
Maureen, thank you for calling in.
Sure. Bye.
I had somebody send me something that was new information to me, and I want to play it for you guys. They just emailed this to me when we were talking about Gabby's history, and apparently she lived in North Carolina for 2 years. I didn't realize that. So let's hear what this news person is saying.
Petito, the story of the 22-year-old's disappearance and death impacting people right here in the Cape Fear. Petito lived and worked in our area for a while. WWI's Sydney Bushell spoke with those who knew her personally. I said, what'd you find out about her time here?
Hi, Randy. Well, Gabby lived in Carolina Beach. She worked in Wilmington, and even though she didn't end up going, she applied to Cape Fear Community College.
Gabby was a bright soul, a bright light. She was always happy, always had a smile on her face, always trying to bring everybody up with her.
Gabby Petito, a young woman whose story captured the attention of the nation after she went missing during a cross-country journey with her fiancé. Before the headlines, Gabby was a young woman living and working in the Cape Fear.
She's not just a name. She's not just a case. She was a person, and she was very special to a lot of people and many of us here.
Smoke on the Water General Manager Lara Witchen says Gabby worked there from September 2017 to January 2019 in the kitchen and as a hostess before moving to Florida.
I think all of us here initially thought it can't be real. You know, it has to be somebody else. She was so full of life and had so many plans and had her whole life ahead of her.
A life captured in photos, spending time with friends, enjoying the ocean and the Carolina Beach boardwalk. Now some of those photos cover a table at Smoke on the Water, a table reserved in her memory. Gabby's friends are still shocked and heartbroken. They were not able to speak on camera, but shared stories.
To know Gabby was to know someone who truly embodied a free spirit. She made life a little lighter and a little less serious. She was adventurous and loved her family and friends wholeheartedly. She enjoyed doing art. That is something that we shared a passion for, making the world a more creative and beautiful space. Her love for life was so inspiring, and her love for others even more so. I am so thankful for the time I got to spend with her while she was in Wilmington. She touched my life more than anyone could know. Gabby, your smile will forever be engraved in my heart.
On the coast of North Carolina, Gabby Petito will be remembered for her joy, her smile, and her heart.
She was a good soul, a good spirit, and touched so many lives. That's what we want her to be remembered for.
So, Gavis, I did not know that. And it answers a question that's the bigger question, that she moved to Florida January 2019. So that was a big question that I'd had for a long time. Like, when exactly did she move to Florida? Well, now we know it was January 2019 she moved to Florida. Before that, for 2 years, she lived in North Carolina.
Yeah, I haven't been deep diving that part of it. So, yeah, I was a little bit taken back by that too. So, but she was a hard worker. She always worked. She was always working. So,
Downtown Trina says, what's the point? Well, a couple of things is the point. It leads me to a question, why'd she move to North Carolina when her family lived in Long Island? First off. Second off, We know that she entered into a relationship in a way that she felt like she should move to Florida, because the only reason she went to Florida was to be with Brian, and that happened in, now we know, January 2019. So that to me is the point of understanding their relationship ebb and flow. Somebody was saying, like, I think maybe it was even you, Gavis, who was talking about, well, they've been together for 7 years. I'm like, I don't know if they have been or not. They've maybe known each other for that long. Based off of what they said, it was 3 years. So it makes sense. They start dating while she's living in North Carolina, and then for 2 years, she lived in Florida with him. That makes more sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, no, they just had a really on again, off again relationship.
Yeah, it was on again, off again. That part, everyone seemed to verify. Joshua, thanks for calling in today, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. I think I just messed up the video by
No, we
clicking.
can.
Okay, I'm still here. Thank you.
Yeah, we can still hear you and see you. So what do you think about everything going on today?
So I'll start and try to work my way backwards as quickly as I can. First, thank you guys for having me on the show. I appreciate it very much. So the new information, any information is always relevant. It's always definitely helpful. But I thought they started dating in high school and they met actually in Long Island. So wouldn't that have been before she moved to North Carolina?
They've known each other since freshman year of high school. I haven't read anything that verified that they said they were dating each other since freshman year of high school. In fact, I think he was 1 year older than her. But the question was, well, when did you guys meet each other? We met each other at the beginning of high school. How long have you been dating? He said for 3 years.
I don't believe anything he said.
And Gabby was single her entire senior year. So Brian had already graduated, and Gabby was single for that 1 year after Brian had graduated, and Gabby was still in high school for her last year.
So one of those pictures that went through that reel that you showed had those two together in the picture. Do you think that was a older picture?
Yeah,
like a yellow background.
I don't know. The guy that was standing in the background, I don't know if that was him or not. Like, again, it appears that Brian looks like a varying number of different people. Sure. He's one of those guys that looks like 10 different people. Somebody the other night, I had to put my face real big on the screen because everybody in the chat was saying that Brian and I looked alike.
I saw that. That was very quickly debunked, just like the bunker. No, it was a little quick.
Brian's the one leading the streams on Tyler Feller's YouTube channel.
You know how he's doing it? Because he still has his phone. So not to go too crazy, but when he came back to Florida, he had evidence on his phone of his activities or something. He bought a burner phone and he turned in the burner phone in the wallet before he left. So whatever happened to his original phone? I've been asking that to my girlfriend for weeks and not knowing an answer to that. And I finally saw somebody post that. Where is the original phone? So that's a great question. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, or he could have just swapped SIM cards, right, between the two and kept.
Correct. And that's how he's getting help from the lawyer to work his way out of his situation to get somewhere safe and hide. Gavis, I do agree with you that he probably, unfortunately, killed those girls, and either Gabby witnessed it or she found it on his phone when he went back. And that's the reason why he ended up killing her. And he did attack her because in that second video the police released the week after, she says in that car that he's actually scratched her face when he grabbed her in, in the squeezing manner with his hands together. So that does show that he physically assaulted her at that time.
It does, and it's a shame that something wasn't done about it then.
I agree. And now there's a video I sent over to you, Tyler. Whenever you get a chance to watch it, it's from someone that says they saw the van in Northport before the police seized it out in the woods somewhere. So it's kind of interesting.
That is.
Why did he go to the woods with the van before the cops got it?
Or what did he get rid of?
That's what I mean. Why did he go out there? Exactly. What else did he have in that van that he brought back with him? There was evidence.
Yeah.
So that should be an interesting video.
Yeah.
Well, good points,
maybe,
Joshua.
Thank you. Maybe we could do a poll. This is going to be kind of harsh, but let's do a poll possibly asking if your child came home and said that he accidentally killed his girlfriend, would you help him?
I don't want to put the word killed in a poll because I don't want YouTube to kill my algorithm, but I will say, would you help your kid if you knew they were guilty? How's that sound?
That sounds like interesting results, I would think, man.
I think a lot of people would say no, but they actually would. I think like my guess is, now I'm saying it before the results, so I'm impacting the results, and it ends up being a faulty poll. That's how polls work. I'm like, I'm like infecting the results of the poll. But in my gut, I think most people would say, no, I would never do that. And like, then they actually would.
Yep. And that's what his parents are doing now and have been, unfortunately. So I'll let you guys go. Thank you for having me on the show. I hope you guys have a blessed night.
Thank you. I'm putting the poll in there. Would you help your kid if you knew they were guilty? And then I'm putting in parentheses, your kid is age 23. I'm going to put in parentheses, but looks 37.
I'm having a problem with Gabby not being at the crime scene on with the Moab. Just because, remember that caller that called in the other night? She said that was the biggest thing that's ever happened. Everybody knew about it on the news. It was everywhere. So it just doesn't make sense that she'd go sit still in Salt Lake City for 6 days. So, and if she wasn't involved, she would have had to have been sitting at a cafe on the 13th or the 14th. And Brian
wasn't in Salt Lake till the 17th.
I know, but that would have meant that Brian went out on his own. And I don't know. I think they would have probably done it at night if they did it.
I thought the Kylan and Crystal homicide took place on the 14th.
But it would have had to been the early morning hours. They wouldn't have done it in broad daylight, right? So it would have to be broad daylight if they leave Gabby somewhere. And then Brian goes, right? So Brian makes an excuse, drops her off at the Moonflower, and then he drives out and does the deed while Gabby's not there. The only other way it happens is if Gabby's left at a tent in Warner, and then Brian drives around and finds her.
Or
she's there.
Or it's daylight and she's working at the Moonflower on her computer. And Brian leaves.
And that's where I'm having the problem, is I don't think they would have done it in daylight. I think it would have happened at night.
Gabby could be a sound sleeper too.
That too, yes.
Or they needed water or something from the town, and she said, I'll be fine. Go ahead and go without me.
Exactly.
Leave me this gun right here next to this book.
You're right. I don't want to put her there, but we can't eliminate the fact that she might have known.
Interesting.
I know.
Frank, how are you?
Excellent. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. I just wanted to share some thoughts that I have. Last year, I worked as a census enumerator, so I went door to door, getting people who hadn't completed their census to do that. And I noticed a number of abandoned or foreclosed upon homes. And there were even a few instances where there were squatters inside. And it dawned on me that Brian could be squatting in a home or potentially a cabin in the Appalachian Trail, and the owner isn't aware of it. And hopefully they don't get a nasty surprise if they come to, inspect their home or cabin.
Something's happened in the housing market since the wee hours of September 2019 and 2020, whenever you were doing the census thing.
Yeah, it was last year, so it was October of 2020, yeah.
And that's that the housing market has just gone off like crazy. I saw a shack that sold, literally a shack that's falling down, that sold for $500,000 in Nashville.
Wow.
And so I'm just saying, like, I don't know if the bank or anybody has property right now, they're checking it because they're doing whatever they can to put it into the hands of other people.
Yeah. But, when you see a house and the lawn isn't maintained and there's no vehicles in the driveway, that could have been a cue to Brian that, okay, this could be a place I could stay, even temporarily. And then he'll go on to the next unoccupied home. And now we've got a plethora of unoccupied residences. Yeah. So the possibilities are endless. He could be like a hermit crab with these homes.
That's a good theory, that he could be hiding out in houses. Or two, there's a lot of people that have vacation houses in the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Appalachian.
Yeah.
All the ways you could possibly say it. I just said it that just now, so I don't get hate in the comments. But there's a lot of vacation houses in that region. So what I mean by that is people have a house they go to a few times a year, and it's mainly unlived in. So there's a point that I didn't think about.
Yeah, because I keep hearing people say, "Oh, he's in a tent or he's under a bridge." I'm like, why would he be? With all of these homes that are unoccupied, why be out in the elements when you don't have to be? So, and we know if he has a propensity to kill, then busting into a place is nothing for him.
Mm-hmm.
So those are my thoughts.
Thank you for calling in, Frank.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
Somebody said foreclosures are on the uptick. I do think foreclosures are going to be on the uptick because there was some protection that existed in COVID times about foreclosures and even for renters, and that has expired. So I could see that becoming a bigger issue now. Colleen, thanks for calling in.
Hi, how are you guys? Thanks for
Doing
having
well.
me on.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. And thank you so much for doing this because it's such a way to like connect with other people that are like thinking the same thing, you know? So I really appreciate it. And I have been going crazy with my theory. I guess it's just a theory, but I'm so glad, Gavin, that you're saying the same thing I've been thinking. Me and my husband said the other day. I don't know whether Gabby was actually there or not, but she was either there or this is my theory. She was either there or she knew about it. They got in that big fight. He flew, probably, she was really upset. You could tell she was so distressed too during that pullover with the police. There was probably just such a series of events. He flew home, told his parents. My theory is his parents and him came up with the idea together to go like a plan to, I don't know what I can and can't say on air, but to do whatever to Gabby. And then they already had the plan of him coming back. The lawyer already contacted and everything. So I completely agree with you, Gavin, that I think that, and I think the parents were actually involved, not physically, but in taking care of Gabby, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. It's been driving me crazy. And the other thing, and I'm hoping somebody can help me with this, because on her Facebook page, someone checked her into the funeral home on the day of her funeral. And you can only do that. No, like someone can't check you in. I already researched this. Someone can't check you in. You have to check yourself in. And her family's obviously not going to do that. So I thought that was really bizarre and disturbing too. I don't know if anyone else noticed that or heard that.
What do you mean by check her in?
So on Facebook, you can check into places. So if you're at like a restaurant, you can check in and it will say like, if Colleen was at whatever restaurant, when you're there, you can actually go in like, or you can go back and check yourself in, it's called. So on her Facebook page, she's checked into a few places, and then the day of her service, she was checked into the funeral home, which I just thought was disturbing.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that, and I don't know, maybe her parents had closed down her social media or something.
I think after somebody passes, now on Facebook, they allow it to become a tribute account. So, and they could have given access to the parents.
I hope it's something like that, because it was really disturbing to me that if somebody was like doing that, like in a creepy way. So,
Colleen,
anyway,
thanks for calling in.
I wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care. Take care. Bye.
Ikami dude says Laundrie's mother's maiden name was Vinci. Pinellas County is loaded with Vinci's. There just so happens to be a Vinci development company. Coincidence? Thank you so much for the super chat. And I actually have been saying from the beginning, let's research Roberta's family. Are there trusts involved? Are there companies and development companies involved? Do they have family property that's in somebody else's name or in LLC's name or a corporation's name? Like I've been saying this since the beginning. So I don't know if what you're saying is like 100% true, or if even there's a connection between Roberta and what would be said as the Vinci Development Company. But I am going to research it because I have been saying this since the very beginning. Somebody needs to figure out if there's more surrounding the mom and the family. So
yeah, my team today, I don't know, I got a brainwave last night that this lawyer is just too prepared and he just seems really dirty. And we found some gambling rings he was involved in and some really nasty stuff. And
I don't know about the gambling rings, but I had a sense that he's slimy. That's all I can say.
Oh, you should have seen, like, the one guy he got off, he used, I don't know what you guys have for laws down there, but he used like a technicality to get the bookies all the books back because the bookie needed to submit his taxes. So the courts had nothing to work with. It's just dirty, absolutely dirty. So that's the angle that I was chasing down with my team today. And yeah, he's not a good guy. Really not a good guy.
Maureen, thanks for calling in. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
Tough topic. And a special hello to all of the hundreds of Maureen's that are apparently in your viewership.
Maureen's a really
I'm like,
popular name in the Feller fam.
apparently. So I'll be quick. I don't have much to say, but I did want to just point out that there was a verified attorney on Reddit answering questions around the Gabby Petito case. I will share the link just after I'm done here. But one of the questions that was asked I thought was pretty good. It was actually relevant to what's playing right now on screen regarding, Chris Laundrie going to the Carlton Reserve on Thursday. And he was photographed, laughing or smiling or whatever with a cop that looks very much like Brian. And the attorney agreed that it could have been an intentional tactic by the FBI to couple Chris with a law enforcement officer who looks similar to his son to possibly loosen him up and make him more comfortable. So I thought that was really interesting because every time I see that picture and every time a YouTuber talks about it, everyone's like, geez, that guy really looks like Brian. So I thought that was an interesting perspective.
What? I got so much feedback on how I approached that situation. Like, people were not happy with the way I was responding about that. What's your thoughts on that photo?
I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've been someone, I've been in situations where I'm grieving a terrible loss and I have a moment where I'm laughing. And if someone were to take a photo of me, laughing at something someone said, they would say, she's heartless or whatever it may be. But the reality is most of the time I was sad. That's not to say that I think that's the situation with Chris. I think Chris knows a lot more than he's saying. And I don't have a lot of empathy for the father. But I just want to point out that people grieve differently, and it is possible to have a moment of laughter. I think given the context of it, it's just weird. And you would think, especially where you're without your lawyer, you're not going to, try and be photographed smiling or laughing. I mean, you're there for 3 hours. Just keep a straight face. It's not hard.
Yeah. Especially when you know that people are photographing you. I don't want to get into it. I got so much negative feedback from people, and it's like, and I was, in my opinion, I felt like I walked the middle line of that as best as possible. So the fact that people get all worked up about stuff is typically an indication that they have some personal stuff that they need to deal with, but still I didn't appreciate the level of negative feedback I got about that particular photo. Maureen, thank you for calling in today.
No problem. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And that's one thing that's bugging me about Chris Laundrie. Like, he just seems pretty relaxed about this whole situation. So that's why I started deep diving into the lawyer, because he's got a confidence about him that he's like, oh, nothing's going to touch me. So I think that the lawyer and him have done something in the past, and who knows, maybe Brian went and killed somebody so that they profited a whole bunch of money. I don't know.
I'm sure that they have a long-standing attorney-client relationship.
Exactly.
And especially since that this isn't his level of expertise. So it makes sense to me that he would, hire the lawyer that he's familiar with, and then this guy's sort of building a airplane in the air kind of a situation is what it feels like. And likely he's working with other attorneys. I know that when you're dealing with a firm, they have different people in different departments that specialize in certain situations. And so it's not just that one singular attorney who's working on something. And typically they'll pass statements through multiple people before they send them off. So
right.
Jenna wants to know if John Colt's related to this.
No, John Colt had a shotgun and a rifle, and if they would have matched those ballistics to the girls in Moab, they would have come out already and said that.
Denise, thank you for the super chat. Means a lot to have your support. Joshua with the super chat. He says, were the girls hurt that night that Brian and Gabby were separated? Possible, but likely the next night. Based off of their statement about a creepy guy in the campground, they're going to move the next day.
And the creepy guy could have still been Brian, right? Brian and Gabby could have been parked by them the first time up at Warner or whichever campground they were at, and they could have moved. But Brian could have found them pretty quickly. So, yeah. So the creepy guy's not reported until the night of the 13th at Woody's Tap House. And the night of the 13th, they get out to their new campsite, and that's when I think the murder occurred. Murders occurred.
Conspiracorium says, what about the Tesla cameras in the Moab area? So those Tesla cams, I think it's called Sentry. They pick up if somebody like gets too close to their car, hits the door, or things like that, and they record it based on the size of the SD card that the owner puts in there. So likely, if any, and I would imagine there's a lot of Teslas out there. Likely, I would imagine that people that have Teslas could have either found out about it too late and it would have already been deleted because it just auto deletes over whatever's the oldest, or you can go through and delete it yourself too. Likely, what I think would have happened is they would have went and realized that, but unless they were like hitting the car and stuff, and I would guess that there's Teslas out there based on my experience whenever I was at Yosemite, or not Yosemite, at Yosemite earlier this year. There was a lot of Teslas, like a lot of Teslas, but that also is California, but it's still a town of 5,000, so I don't know exactly how many number of Teslas there are. Jin Animal and Music Lover, thank you. Tuning in all the way from Australia, from down under. Thank you for joining with us. It means a whole lot. Clark, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Doing well. Thank you for calling in today.
Well, I had something I was going to ask first, but off the previous thing, the whole creepy guy, they were at the Moonflower for 6 hours the day of the argument, the 12th, right? So,
well, it's actually a little bit less because we looked at the shadows from the arches photo. So it's probably less than the 6 hours. It's probably more like 4.5.
Okay, but they were there. So most likely she saw Brian already that day. So if she saw him again that night, because saying there's a creepy guy out there is like she's seeing somebody she hasn't seen before.
But Brian could have acted strangely.
But when she talked to the people at the bar or whatever, when she say, I saw this creepy guy out there that was hanging around the day before with his girlfriend, right? It seems like it's somebody completely new to say there's this creepy guy out there. It's not somebody that she saw the day before for 4.5 hours or 6 hours. Does that make sense?
The bottom line, nobody knows because of how he was dressed and it was dark, and there's just a variety of factors.
Right, saying creepy could have been a silhouette of somebody just standing there.
Some people called Gavis creepy when he first got on the stream the first time. Now they all love him. So, you know,
there's a whole bunch of stuff we don't know there, right? Like he could have been camped that morning or the night of the 12th. They could have been near those guys, right? And then they could have moved camp. So there's a lot of speculation in there. But for sure, by spending 5.5 hours at the Moonflower, you would absolutely think that they met.
Right.
So that's all we confirm. That's all we can confirm.
Right. The whole thing about that police officer saying that they knew exactly where Brian was at there in the very beginning. Is there anybody that can verify that Brian was actually seen after she was reported missing at that house? Not some neighbor that said he jumped a fence or something, but like police officers when they picked up that van, anybody reliable that says, yes, he was there after she's reported missing. Because I've always thought that he probably left before she was even reported missing.
Well, they stayed in the campground at Fort DeSoto for sure.
Right, but that was before she was reported missing.
Right.
So the cops, the cop might have just said, we know exactly where he is because the lawyer said he's in there. So they might have just, okay, well, the lawyer said he's in there. He's in there. And they might have somewhat been keeping an eye on the place. And then all of a sudden, oh, he's gone. everybody's like, how did this guy get away? Well, he might have already been gone. If he left before she even was reported missing.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can say with
Can
any
verify,
certainty
right.
when he left exactly. So
Right. So I know anybody that can really verify he was there after the 11th, you know, like the cops when they picked up the van, anything. Yeah, we saw him sitting inside the house or something. Nothing.
no.
Okay,
they
yeah,
just-
that's always I've been wondering why, you know, the cops said we know exactly where he is. That might be a reason why, because they were just going off what the lawyer said. And I saw a thing today that the lawyer had stated that hasn't seen Brian for years, since he was like a kid. So even when this whole thing started here, he hasn't actually seen Brian. So
Yeah.
okay, well, guys, thanks for the call here. I'll get off and let somebody else get on.
Clark, thank you for calling
Yeah.
in. Is Clark a real person or a Doberman? Just kidding. Is this the Patty?
It's Grandma Patty. Hi, guys. How are you guys?
Everyone's favorite caller. How are you?
You're looking good.
Thank you.
Listen, all I had to hear were about the two women in Moab. That's where I'm at. Okay? It just really is bugging me, as the whole case is. By the way, I ordered your book, dear.
Yay. Thank you. The Don't Stop book. It comes out November 16th.
All
and I
right.
really am praying that it's going to bless a lot of people.
Oh, great. Okay, so listen to this, okay, guys? Okay, Garlock, I've been really trying to deep dive, okay? Got my sleuthing cap on. This bothered me that they told friends that if we're missing somebody, we're murdered.
Yeah.
Who says that? Listen to this, okay? Okay, friends, if something happens to us, we've been kidnapped. If something happened to us, call the police. If something happened to us, we got lost in the trail.
Yep.
Something happens to us, we got murdered.
Yeah.
Someone said that to them.
Yeah.
Someone who was harassing and creeping them out. I'm going to murder you too. I just think someone put that in their head for her to say that. Do you agree that that sounds strange?
Yeah, it's definitely a more poignant statement than what the other statements, the hypothetical statements that you mentioned were,
Right,
for sure.
right.
It's
So
like,
I'm-
well, even if it wasn't put in their head, they at least had the sense in their spirit, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, they did, and it came to pass. But the other thing that bothers me is the police telling the public, you have nothing to worry about. And I looked it up and I read it in 3 statements. There's no threat to the public. This is what I read. The Grand County Sheriff's Office has stated that investigators believe it was an isolated incident and there's no threat to the public. They know something to say that. Do they know
Or
it
they're
was
trying
Brian?
to
Do
protect the tourist industry they have in Moab.
Wow, that's pretty cold.
I
mean,
hope it's not true.
Yeah, a brutal murder like that.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to save the tour.
What? I think your computer's cutting out, Patty. What do you think, though? If I lived there, I heard the words of Cindy Sue. She said they don't feel safe. Oh, sounds like Patty's computer quit working. I hope she calls back. But she's saying things in a way, Gavis, that I haven't heard them said before. And oh, here she is again.
Oh, I don't know. Something just disappeared on my screen.
Oh, we got you back. It cut out for a second. I was asking you what you thought about this idea of what Cindy Sue, who lives in Moab, said, that they don't feel safe there.
Right. The public, they're scared.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's several people who say they're not going to go hiking, they're not going to walk their dog, they're not going to do this and that.
Yep.
So, I mean, they haven't caught anyone. And I thought, well, maybe they're not there. It was a targeted type of thing, since they said it was isolated. What does that mean when they say it's an isolated? Does it mean it was targeted?
It means it's their only murder in 15 years, and they don't think that it was somebody who murdered and stuck around Moab.
Right. They're trying to get it out of their vicinity.
Right.
Right. Okay. All right. So thank you for hearing me out.
But you brought up a great point, Patty, and I still think that Brian could have been the creepy guy, because I think people get that vibe from him. There was a report from the big Texan in Bullwinkles up in Yellowstone. He said he had the same feeling. He's just like, this guy he seems weird. And he said, it's a good thing I got my license to carry, because I was going to take care of him. Yeah. So
wow.
It's not the first time we see this weird thing. So.
Well, no threat to the public could mean that they kind of know it was Brian.
No, I think they were just probably incompetent and not doing their job properly.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys.
If they released the ballistics report from Kylan and Crystal's body, Patty, we would have a lot more information.
Right. And I'm just wondering, the way they were found, the disrobing, was just to throw the police off, or did something? We don't, without DNA, we won't know.
Well, they were in a lesbian relationship, so I don't know if that is even an issue.
As far as what?
But that might have been the way they slept together as being a lesbian couple.
Well, they said that they were disrobed as part of the murder.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, so the dad is making the case that there was some level of assault in that way that took place. But the police haven't mentioned that, so nobody knows. Again, it's sort of like the situation with Gabby's autopsy, that we don't know toxicology, we don't even know cause of death other than homicide. We have no details about it, and people should have as big of hands in the air about Kylan and Crystal, because to me it's equal playing grounds. Why we talk about both of them here.
Right, and they didn't close off the scene, so that was contaminated, that whole environment where they were found.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks again.
Thanks for calling in, Patty.
Love you too. Bye-bye.
We love you too. JC, thank you for the super chat. JC says they have numerous properties, quick sales. The attorney is no low-level legal real estate attorney. Hats off to a channel that I can't remember. They assess property records, very knowledgeable. Thank you for the insight on Stephen Bertolino. Prestige Events, thank you for your support of this channel. Where are you watching from, Prestige Events? Because I don't know what that is. What is the currency MYR? I don't know what that is.
And JC, you're right. This is no low-level lawyer. This guy is doing the big stuff. So he's doing some really slimy stuff.
Long Island guy, how's it going?
All right, can you hear me good?
Did you see any chipmunks since last time you called in?
No chipmunks.
Okay.
You can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate you running that story out about North Carolina. That was pretty cool. That's just one of the many details of her life and their whole background that we've not heard anything about. And I was just, looking at that site of that TV station, and there was, the Google brought up something that the sheriff somewhere in North Carolina says there's no reason for Laundrie to be there, but they keeping an open eye. Okay. I just think this whole thing has been so mismanaged, but I just want to say one thing. My only thought of the day is this: with the January 6th invasion of the Congress, they rounded up hundreds of people in like 2 weeks. They didn't even know the people's names. Here we got the guy's name and everything about him, and they can't find him. It just says to me that I don't think a lot of priorities going into this thing. I don't think the FBI, in other words, or the federal side of things. Northport, yeah, the swamp, all that hunting, okay. But I don't think this is anything like the search for those people from January 6th. That's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, everyone. We will now open the meeting for sharing.
What do you think, Gabby?
Experience, strength, and
Well, I think that they're doing a heck of a job. I mean, the FBI, they're trying. I mean, they've got gag orders on people. They're chasing down every single lead. I guess it's strange, but that's maybe why this might go deeper than we think. This is why I think the lawyer and the Laundrie parents could be into something even bigger than what we're looking at. So
one thing on that topic of the lawyer and the parents, CNN, which I guess, is still covering this a little bit. Had an interview with a guy today, former FBI profiler, a guy who produces some TV show and is also a FBI profiler. I forgot what show. But anyway, he said that there's a way with a grand jury they could compel the parents to talk. Now, that's the first time I've heard any of these experts say that there's a way to compel them to talk. Have you heard anything like that they could compel them to talk?
Does that word compel mean that they make something so enticing that they choose to talk, such as immunity? And when I heard another FBI agent talk about it, they said the sister's the one that they think would end up
Yeah, I heard that too. Yeah. But this guy's talking about like as though they could a grand jury force them to talk. I don't know. I mean, you can't. For everything else we've been hearing, is Fifth Amendment is Fifth Amendment. Nobody can make you talk.
I've read through some of the cases that this Bertolino guy's been in, and they're serious, big, like unreal cases. So I don't think he's going to budge.
Like what, for example? Because I tried to look him up. I couldn't find any matters with his name on it. Did you find?
There was a Aucoin himself and another guy. They were in a big gambling racketeering charge or something. So yeah, just dig into that. You'll hear more about it. I don't know. It was a long time ago, so it was kind of connected to New Orleans, and that's why I started digging as a potential. Maybe they had some real estate there, like the office that they were using.
Oh.
And so that's what I was looking into today.
All right, thanks. All right. Bertolino, you're saying, is attached to some other cases around the country.
Yeah, and they're big ones. They're big ones. It's not just a local real estate New York lawyer. This is nationwide. So
it ain't your mom and dad cases.
Does he have an office outside of New York?
He has an office in New York, and the address I can't think of it off the top of my head, but
I saw his website here in Long Island, but does he have one?
It's right next to where they went to school in high school. It's right next to where the Petitos lived. It's right next to the house that the Laundries lived in New York. It's right next to the juicer shop. Yeah, so I think they were pretty good friends.
Yeah.
Thanks, Long Island guy, for calling in.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Carson says the female sitting next to Brian at the Mary Piglet said that her boyfriend was creeped out. That's just more and more and more. You know, like I wrote down this thought, like Brian is a creepy guy. Was he the creepy guy? And there's a little bit of a difference there, but it's clear that a lot of people have this speculation that, you know, Brian is known to be a creepy guy. It's like I'm not saying he is, but if he was a sociopath or a psychopath, the lack of proper emotional responses sometimes can create just a bit of creepiness around somebody. Malia, thank you for the super chat. The U.S. Marshals believe John Freeman Colt may have murdered the girls. Sexual predator on the run and possibly in the area. He's a person of interest. Well, it's good to know that he's a person of interest. Is he officially a person of interest? And I learned this the other day when the U.S. Marshal called into the show, that the U.S. Marshals sort of look through a very tainted lens of, would you say that, Gavis? A very tainted lens of sex trafficking type situation.
I'm not sure about that, but I just don't think John Freeman Colt was out driving for 3 hours on his motorcycle to try to go find some victims. And then all we know that he had was potentially a shotgun or a rifle. So can't really put him there just because he's hiding. He doesn't want to be out in the open and be taking long drives, especially on the highway. That's just my thought. So I don't think he's connected at all.
It's worth looking into and keeping our eye on for sure, but that's sort of my gut as well. It'd throw a wrench in some of the stuff that we're thinking.
For sure.
Diane, it's so good to see you back. How are you?
Hi, guys.
We're so proud of you that you've worked hard to figure out how to get on these streams, and so we couldn't be more excited that you're here with us.
Well, I gotten a notice that your show was going to be on at 10:45 tonight, And tomorrow's our 51st wedding anniversary. So
Oh
we went out
my
to dinner.
goodness.
But I saw a couple of people asking where it was, so I thought I'd give my 2 cents.
Yeah.
When you were talking with Patty, she mentioned people feeling scared and wondering if it was safe in the area. And it reminded me of a case that we had back in, I think it was 2004 or 2008 in Georgia. A real sweet Christian girl goes on a hike in the Appalachian Trail on New Year's Day. She takes her dog with her and she tells her parents that, you know, she'll be home before dinner. Well, this guy befriends her on the trail talking about her dog, and he captures her and he chains her in the woods.
Oh
He
my
rapes her
goodness.
repeatedly. He starves her. He beats her. And then on the third day, he told her, he gave her something to eat, and he said, I'm going to let you go. So, you know, eat this so you'll have some strength. And while she's eating, he comes up from behind her and chops her head off.
Oh my
So
goodness.
when the dog is found 50 miles away a few days later, and they track him down because someone saw him putting the dog out.
Hmm.
And it ended up that he was wanted. There had been murders in a national forest in 3 other states. At least 5 people have been attributed to him. One was a couple. Most of the time it was single women who were out by themselves. And he only killed 1 in each of the parks where he killed, except for a husband and wife. So, and he chopped all their heads off. So,
That's
you know,
terrible. The guy that you're talking about, his name is Gary Michael Hilton, and the girl you're talking
Exactly.
about is Meredith Emerson.
Exactly. And she was just, if you look at her picture, she'll remind you of Gabby. And, you know, just not, it seemed to be, from what everybody said, the sweetest person, you know, just so dedicated to her family and to the Lord. And then the woman in Florida was a Sunday school teacher who'd gone out by herself. So, you know, the thing is that we can't live in fear. You
That's
know,
true.
anybody could snap.
Yep.
And anybody, you know, you pass people on the street that smile. There's a lot of people who smile and look normal who are not normal at all.
Yep. That's so true.
So you know, we just can't stop living our lives just because of something like that. Now, I wouldn't have gone hiking at that time, you know, when
Right.
they caught him and stuff.
But that mountain that Meredith is found on too was called Blood Mountain.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not that big of an area, but it's a little bit hard on, you don't want to drive a standard transmission up it, but you know, yeah, it's not far from us in Georgia. So,
Wow. Well,
yeah, so that, you know, that was just something that I wanted to say was, you know, we can't hide in our house, because if it's our time,
yep,
the Lord's going to let us go. So
that's true. And I think sometimes we know when it's going to be our time. We might not be able to put words around it, but I was just going back to what Kylan and Krista were saying, and how, by the way, Patty sent a super chat to you, Diane, saying, "Greetings, Diane, from Grandma Patty."
hi, Patty. I won't call her grandma because she's probably old enough to be my sister.
But you know, I think you're right. Like, we can't live in fear. That before we were even established on this earth, our days were numbered.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking today about, because, you know, when we were out, I noticed so many people, especially in our area, because we're in a little country type town close to the Alabama line, and everybody has tattoos except for the 2 of us. You know, just everybody has them. And I remember when that was such a big to do, and then I remembered the Bible verse that says that God has our names written in the palm of His hand. So He had the first tattoo.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, you can't.
The reason in the Bible people say tattoos are wrong is because in the Old Testament, they were basically worshiping idols with marking and cutting their body. But there's not a specific thing, especially in the New Testament, where a lot of that law was rewritten by Jesus, that tattoos are wrong.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about Christopher Laundrie? We haven't had a chance to talk about it since he joined the search. And did
I
you see the
think,
picture of him with the FBI agent?
I think that he volunteered to do this but after what Cassie said. I
Yeah.
think that his reaction to the Secret Service agent walking out together. I think he knows that Brian's not in there, and he let his guard down, and he's laughing with the guy. I do think it was. I like the idea that it could have been a ploy by putting someone who looks so much like Brian, but I think that he is so cold-hearted that it never even registered to him.
Right.
I'm not sure that there's this family, talk about dysfunctional.
Yeah.
I don't see any love between any of them.
Yeah.
His wife has on a cancer hat and the sleeve for lymphedema, which comes usually when women have had breast cancer. And I don't see anything, my husband would be comforting me.
Yes.
Whether we were concerned that our son was guilty or concerned that he was missing.
Yep.
So I think he's just that kind of a man that he has no empathy or compassion, and he's not worried at all.
Yep. I think that you're hitting the nail on the head with that a lot of people are sensing the very same thing that you're sensing about that. And Diane, I just want to tell you what a privilege it is that you're sharing with us a bit about your life, that you guys are celebrating 51 years together.
My
Wow.
husband told the waitress I was 12 when we got married. She looked so upset for a minute.
Well, a lot of people did get married younger. It was more appropriate than it is now, but 12 is really young.
Yeah, I was in a Baptist college, and he was in the Army, and that's how we met. I was line day. They made us take social graces. And so they sent us over to learn how to react in these formal situations. And so that's how we met.
Well, congratulations, and thank you for joining the call today.
Thank you. Good talking to you guys. Hi, Gabby. Okay.
What a blessing. It's incredible that somebody would be married for 51 years in our culture today. So happy anniversary to Diane. Audrey, how are you doing?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing well.
Good. Well, congrats, Diane. Just wanted to share a few thoughts, not to bring it back to the Kylan and Crystal case, but I was a little confused, I guess, to say the least, about the rabbit. So I looked into the rabbit, and rabbits really can't go more than 24 hours without food or water, or they're dead. And so when Cindy Sue said that she found them and the rabbit was inside of the little pen they had made, and also inside of a carrier inside that pen with no food or water. And so I was curious, if they're found on the 18th and the last they're heard of is the 13th, like how the heck did that rabbit...
Thank you for watching yourself.
I learned my lesson. Did that rabbit stay alive? So that was just a thought and a question to put out
Did
there.
the rabbit have access to grass underneath of it? Like, is it one of those cages where there's metal bars underneath of it?
There were metal bars in the front, but the bottom and top and sides were all plastic.
And did it have like a little bit of rabbit food that was gone because the rabbit had already ate all of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, we don't know. All Cindy Sue said is that she saw that the rabbit had no food or water. She also said she saw the rabbit food in the back of their Kia. So it's unclear,
and that the rabbit was filthy.
Yeah, it was living in.
So I can actually speak to this really well because I grew up on an acreage and I had a pile of rabbits, like literally over 100. So I had steel cages, automatic watering systems, all that stuff. And I backed it out. And rabbits are actually quite clean. If you ever get a pet, I'd get a rabbit. I would recommend one because they'll only pee in one corner. And when she said that rabbit was filthy, I knew instantly that it had to be longer than 1 day, longer than 2, longer than 3. And the only way for that rabbit to get covered in poop was for it to be 4 days out at least. Otherwise, they would have just been in one little corner. So they can live for a heck of a lot longer than 1 day. So
Okay. Okay. So how many days do you think they could go without food or water?
I think it's exactly 5 is about when they would die.
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. Because yeah, she said also that the rabbit did consume food and water immediately, which
And she tried to. She felt sorry for the rabbit too, right? So the
Well, it
rabbit
was
was in a
raining.
lot of distress.
It
Yeah,
was
it was
raining,
raining.
so the rabbit could have got, could have got water.
Yeah, a little could have come in for sure. And another question I was having was, you were saying that that you don't think they were sexually assaulted? No.
I don't.
Well, I find it bizarre because I understand, like, I'm a lesbian. We sleep with our pants off. That's a thing. Sure. However,
Confirmed. It's confirmed.
Yeah, it's a thing. However, one of the girls' bras was pulled up, and that's not a thing.
Right.
So that doesn't make sense to me at all. It seems to me that someone's either trying to make it look like it was a sexual assault or it was with that, because that doesn't happen by accident. And
I'm
that's
kind of split on that now, and people are probably going to hate me for this, but if Gabby had any sort of lesbian tendencies, maybe she was there, and then maybe Crystal was killed and Kylan was assaulted by both of them. I'm going to throw it out there.
Interesting
I'm going to
theory.
throw it out there.
And the last thought I had was, if Brian is reading these serial killer books and has built this up in his head that he's going to be a serial killer, why would he run home to his parents? It seems like a bizarre thing to do. If you were going to go and be a serial killer, then you go home to mom and dad.
And that's what I'm trying to string together now, is I think that maybe Brian's done something in his past and he's been protected from that. And maybe that was his only answer, right? So same lawyer, same dad, same situation, sort of fits, but I don't see the links yet.
Awesome.
Yet.
Thank you. Just wanted to share a few thoughts.
Hey, thanks for calling in, Audrey. We really appreciate it. And thank you for being a part of just the stream that we have, liking the video, subscribing, and we appreciate having you around.
Thanks. Thank you guys for all you're doing.
Yep.
I probably dropped that bombshell on you there, Tyler. You probably didn't expect that.
I'm still thinking about rabbits. The research says they'll die after 24 hours.
Yeah.
So that's why she was saying that, like, that's literally without water. It didn't say without food, but it says without water, but it was raining.
It rained and hailed out there. And in order for that rabbit to get filthy dirty, like Cindy Sue said, there's no way it was like in that cage for 24 hours or 48 hours. It was in there for a lot longer than that. I guarantee it. There's just no way. And I've had rabbits my whole life growing up. So that's a fallacy. There's a lot of times I didn't go do my chores and the rabbits didn't all die on me. So,
well, it's like I have some fish. It's like they say the same thing about fish, and then I'm like gone for a week, and then they're fine when I come home. So
yeah, see, so no, just don't believe that. No.
Susan, thank you for joining the Feller fam. You joined the Swag channel. You joined members. You joined Avery and Steven and Maureen today. Thank you guys all for joining. And by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but we have a brand new Gavlock emoji for people in the Feller fam today. So if we get 13 members today, which we've already got 5, so if we get 8 more members today, then we'll be able to add another emoji. I'd love to hear what you guys think our next emoji should be. We have some great emojis. We have a don't stop emoji. We have my head, Gavis's head, a couple praying emojis, a poker face emoji, a find justice for Gabby, or justice for Gabby emoji. We have a find Brian emoji, praying hands emoji. And now, today, we have the Gavlock emoji. And so
I haven't even seen it, guys. So somebody put it up.
I'll send you a high quality version of it. You can use it if you want on something.
Right.
We got a super chat. It disappeared on me, so I can't put it on the screen, but it says, yeah, it's from Seattle Kiwi. Oh, here it is. Thank you, Seattle Kiwi, for sending the super chat. They say, should be popping up. Yeah, Gavis. Most likely Brian protected and saved from punishment by one or more of the parents. So he was doing what he had worked in the past.
Yeah, I have a feeling maybe a real estate deal went bad somewhere, and yeah, they've been through this before.
They ain't no strangers to this, is what you're saying.
Pretty much, yeah.
Thank you, the Swag Channel, for the super chat. It means a lot when you guys support in this way. There's a lot of competition out there in the YouTube world, and when you guys support, it just encourages us to keep the heat on. Not just justice for Gabby, but now we've been, honestly, justice for Kylan and Crystal. And while we think the three are connected, it takes all of us putting our brains together to be able to come to that sort of conclusion. And so thank you guys for being a part of this journey with us. And how cool would it be, Gavis, if it's from this group of people that we're able to really either put a fire under people or go down the proper fact checking basis where we collectively find where Brian's at.
Well, I know in my group, I mean, we basically have our Discord channel open 24 hours a day, and if you get an idea, you drop it in there, and if it's not me, it'll be somebody else tracking it down. So we're ruthless.
If Artemis is watching, go ahead and put that Discord link in the chat, and we'll try to keep it going. So anybody who if they want to be part of your Discord, if that would be okay with you, we'd love for them to join that.
It's already hard enough to keep up with it, but sure, jump in there.
It's like Doug the Bounty Hunter made a statement. He was like, we have to go through every single tip. We've now had 1,300 phone calls, not including their email tips. And he said a lot of them, we love you. A lot of them are, we don't like you or we hate you. And then some of them are legitimate tips. But he said, you have to go through every single one of them.
Yeah, like I'm having to go back through the Robert Lowry stuff too. I thought I dismissed that as a suicide, but now there's some more information that is, yeah. So I don't know if that Robert Lowry was a suicide. We have to go back to
it. I got an email from somebody that's a credible source that says that that Brian was involved with a bomb threat at his high school when he was in high school.
Oh, that was news to me.
Yeah, and it's from a credible place. So I'd like to have like an actual, like, did it make the news at all? Like, I would like to know that. Ron, thank you for joining the Feller fam. It means a lot. You join a great group of people, part of the Feller fam. K-Beth, you're live on the air on the show that has no name.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing well. Hey, let me handle, we just got a super chat in from Rose, and if I don't put it on the screen, then they just disappear. So when they pop up, I try to put them on there. So Rose sent us a super chat, and she said this. Thank you, Rose, for the super chat. The seat cover on the driver's side of the van shows in police videos, but not in the Bethune video. Maybe he killed Gabby inside of her van and transported her using her seat cover. That's something that I hadn't paid that much attention to. What happened to the seat cover? Why is it gone? When did it go missing? Can I get some footage from Benton, Illinois to see if it's there? I don't know.
The seat cover, actually, if you look at the pictures of the van when it's in with the cops, it's on the top shelf with boxes. You can actually see it in the picture when it was in the garage.
Some people think that the parents cleaned the van.
Not the parents' garage, the garage for the police.
Okay.
When it was in I actually have a picture of it. When they brought it in to search the van, on the driver's side, there's no seat cover. If you look behind on the top shelf, there's boxes, and then you could see the light blue seat cover right there on the shelf.
Okay. Well, I'd love to, if you don't mind, when you're done with your call, emailing that picture to me just so we have it. So thank you for helping us answer the super chat. What are your thoughts about everything today?
A couple of things. With Kaylin and Crystal and Gabby, all three of them were found down by a creek.
Yes.
Right? And if they were a couple, isn't it possible that they were just being intimate? That's why they were half undressed?
Yeah, that's definitely possible. It's hard to speculate, but like Audrey was saying, like being half undressed, that part wouldn't be abnormal, but maybe the other part about some of the derobing of the top half would be unusual given the rest of the circumstances.
Right. And then they also found a set of keys. Do you know anything about that was handed to the police?
We don't have
From what
any
I read, that they
information.
were old.
Okay.
Like because the keys had membership cards on them, and some of the membership cards were to places that had closed down a number of years ago. It's like somebody had camped out there years ago and lost their keys.
Oh, so it wasn't connected.
We don't know for sure.
Okay.
We don't think it is.
Okay. And another thing that I did see, but I don't know if it's true or not, is that Brian booked his plane flight home on the 13th, which is the same night. Have you heard anything about that?
Well, there was a report that pulled the information, like a private investigator got a hold of that information. So it's possible for sure that that's what happened, that it happened on that day. And when you heard what Cassie said in her interview, said he flew home because of the argument that they got into.
Right. Right. And that's another thing. When they were first pulled over on the 12th, when the cop walked over to Brian's window, did you guys notice that he had no scratches on his face? But when he got out of the van, he had bleeding scratches?
Yeah, I think that was just because he might have had his back to Gabby when the incident occurred, and she's probably right-handed, and I'm glad she smoked him in the head a bunch of times because I'm pretty sure Gabby caused those cuts, not Brian himself.
I hope she did.
Give Gabby some credit here. I think she actually swung pretty good.
Good. I hope she did.
Because if you notice in the video, when the officer asked him to look at his shoulder, Brian's actually looking at his shirt because he's thinking that the blood's dripping off his head and it's landing on his shirt. So he doesn't do what the officer instructed him to. He actually looked at his shirt because he thought the officer could see the blood.
Ah, no, I got to look at that again.
Yeah, gotta look closely.
Yeah, and the last thing is how everybody's saying that he's in the bunker in the garden under the ground, which I totally don't believe. But if you do look at the pictures the first time that the FBI went to their house, it does an over the whole entire yard view. In the backyard where that first garden is, there's a tree in that one garden. And then when they flew the drone over it a couple of weeks ago, where all this last week, when everybody kept saying that mom was passing him something, that tree is gone. So do you think maybe they're hiding evidence there?
I think they could be actually, because if you go back to Google Earth, and it goes back to 2011 when they surveyed the Google Earth, you don't see those flower beds there. So is there potential that they could have put something in there between 2011 and 2021?
Well, the flower beds were there. The flower beds were there the first time that the FBI went to the house.
Yeah.
But there was a tree there. And then when the drone flew over, the tree was gone. When they got caught and they ran inside, the tree was gone. So within 3 weeks, there was a tree there and then it was gone.
I'll have to look back at that.
I have pictures of that as well.
I'll get them.
Yeah. All right, that was it.
Okay, Beth, you have great insight. We appreciate you calling in. Thank you.
Thank you guys for everything you do. Please keep the story alive, because without keeping it alive, it's just going to become a cold case. We got to keep it alive for Gabby.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do. You guys help when you are a part of the calls, when you like, subscribe, turn the notification bell on when we have a live, tune in. Avery, thank you for the super chat. She said, I think it's homicide by criminal negligence. I think he left Gabby for a long break and then came back to her deceased and went into panic mode. I also think he is now deceased himself. A lot of people are on the same wavelength as you, Avery. They think that same thing. It's entirely possible line of events that took place. My inklings are not in the same direction as yours, but I understand where and how you ended up there. And I know you're not alone on that level of thinking. Joshua says this. He says it takes a few months to get to the lawyer in New York via the Appalachian Trail, which will increase chances of the story dying down and he gets a favorable jury. I don't know enough about how they choose juries in federal cases that involve so many multifaceted instances. So I can't really speak to that. Possible that he is trying to get to a lawyer's house. I don't know if the lawyer would want to have him because he would lose his license. He's slimy. He would set him up. I could see the lawyer setting him up with the safe house and do it through a third channel way so that he doesn't.
I have a place in New Orleans. It's actually a mansion, and that might be a place where he could be set up.
Okay, so I mean, like I could see the lawyer doing a setup, New Orleans, or anywhere along the trail. Curon says, "Hi Tyler and Gavis, hope all is well. I've done some research out of Cuba and Interpol. Would like to discuss with you guys and send you the info. Take care and keep up the great work."
If you have my Discord channel, just slam it in there. Someone will get it to me.
I have an email from him, Gavis, and he's done he did a great job. He researched all of the flights that were coming in and out, possible flights he could have been on, like literally every little thing you could think about possibly to get out of the country. And so I'll email that to you right now, Gavis. That way you have it, and it's on a Word doc. We're very well put together.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
It's top notch. It's like I don't know what Kieran does for a living, but
that's the other thing, right? If he's not in the States and he did go abroad, that's some of the other avenues and rabbit holes we have to chase this kid down, right? Got to find him.
We have Kim joining us again. Kim, hope you're doing well tonight.
Hey, Tyler. Hey, Gavis. How are you?
Good.
Doing well. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, just one. Well, actually, two quick things. Is one of the things that had been confusing me was why they had not charged him yet or called him officially a suspect. And so I don't know if anybody's heard of Duty Ron, but he is a retired police officer. And today he had a former female FBI agent on. And then, sorry about that. And then he also had a former NYPD police officer. Oh my gosh, they've been quiet all night. But anyway, what he was saying, or what they were saying, is that it's probably a sealed indictment, that if they had actually had somebody that had seen Brian do it, or had seen, even him carrying the body or anything like that, they could officially charge him as a suspect. But he said since everything they have right now is circumstantial, that probably what it is it's a sealed indictment. And so they would not be able to unseal that indictment until they found him and arraigned him. That a sealed indictment is only opened during arraignment, and they can't do the arraignment until they found him. So I found that kind of interesting, that answered a big question for me why they hadn't charged him yet, is they can't necessarily call him a suspect without more than circumstantial evidence, but he believes they probably do have a grand jury indictment.
So that's interesting. I think that's one of the possible reasons. There's some other reasons too that other people have mentioned that involve like fair and speedy trial or involve, but I don't understand why they can't say or haven't said that he's a suspect, because I understand not charging him. I don't understand why they haven't even mentioned him as a person of interest.
Yeah.
Or a suspect in the homicide.
Very, very strange, and so, but that was just what they were kind of surmising, because originally they had been saying that they thought that it had been completely mishandled, but then they were saying, well, maybe it's because it's already gone to grand jury and there's a sealed indictment. So that was just one of the things. And then the other thing I want to mention is that John Colton was actually captured. So he was captured about a week ago under the name, using the alias Jason Colton. And since they've captured him, or recaptured him, I'm sure they've done DNA, but they've also said that he was not in the area of Moab when the girls were killed. So they've kind of ruled him out since they captured him.
Okay.
So, yeah, that was just another thing number 2. And then thing number 3 is I was researching Bertolini yesterday and came across a lot of information calling him a private concierge attorney who handled all matters, all legal matters for his concierge clients. So it may be that real estate is only one of the things he does for them, but he bills himself as a private concierge attorney. So I thought that was interesting too.
And then maybe cut his teeth on some of the situation that involved real estate. But if anybody knows who Roy Cohn is, that's the vibe I got from Stephen Bertolino, just like a real slimy guy.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that, you know, for some reason everybody kept saying he was a real estate attorney, but then looking deeper into him, a concierge private attorney sounds a little bit more mysterious, I guess is the proper word.
Yeah, it sounds like, okay, hire me to clean up the messes that you don't want anybody to know about.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Anyway, that's all I have, but appreciate it. And
yeah, Kim, thanks for calling in.
All right, bye.
Bye. MCon Black, thank you for the super chat. Hypothesis, Bonnie and Clyde, but then reality bites. The doubt leads to rift and threat, starts with intimacy with strangers. Infidelity?
Potentially.
Harry Styles says, Bertolino's not slimy at all, in my opinion. Jeez.
I've met a lot of lawyers, and there's not many of them that I like, so I just think the profession's a bit different.
Yeah. Milo Van Adventures, thank you for calling in.
Well, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. The lady that was just on, she had a lot of great points about the attorney. Now, usually certain type of, I guess, rich people would need that, and I would say crime families. Or am I like off on that? To have a private attorney like that for their, you know, like in their family.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I don't think he's a part of a formalized mafia, but I was thinking what you're thinking.
Well, I want to give you my food for thought and reason why I don't want to show my face to anybody else. I am a survivor of a crime family. So what I want to tell you is I believe 100% that something's up with this family. And I think that the DNA they went back for the second time has nothing to do with Brian.
Okay.
Okay. I know that sounds way far-fetched, but they are too good at this. There's no way a 22, 23-year-old is this good at hiding. It's impossible.
That's one of the leads we're chasing down today, because I agree with you. I don't think that he's...
Now about the bunker thing, yes, there's nothing in their paperwork or city planning for a regular bunker, but they do sell, it's called a personal casing that is like a bunker. It could be a one-man bunker or a casing that you can put stuff in, and you can bury that anywhere. And they also they disguise it as a lantern or a garden or a what do they call it, a fireplace. Okay. You can go online, and I think it's called turtlesomething.com or turtle shell, but please forgive me, I'm not very good at remembering with my memory. So I can actually text that to you, the one of the websites that I did find, and it shows how they hide the box. Yep. And it shows how you can also turn it into a one-man bunker should there ever be an emergency. And it does not have to be in city planning. I hope that.
Yeah, we agree with you. I agree with you anyway.
All right. So if I had a drone and I was local, I would actually find a way to keep that drone over that backyard, and as long as they have like a zoom in camera so they don't really see that drone too much, or set up something, because something's there.
Drones don't have very good battery life. I have a drone. It does not
Yeah,
get very good battery life.
but something's there. All of a sudden, they're planting.
Well,
And then the thing with them taking the father to go see the site. Well, they needed to separate him from the wife. If you notice, he never leaves the wife's side. There's some type of control going on over there. And if he told anybody anything, he only told his dad. He didn't tell his mom everything. He told his father, because it's the father that knows how to handle this. Because I believe the father probably has something to do with some past cold cases.
Yeah, I don't know about any of that, but
Yeah.
they were separated whenever he went to the Carlton Reserve to help search.
Now, and as for the girls, well, he doesn't like any gay marriages. He's totally against anything gay
I don't know if
related.
that's true. I don't know if that's true. There's nothing that supports that. In fact, they were members of the Democratic Party, which I don't know any Democrat that is way against homosexual
Well,
marriage.
no, him himself, because he was also very jealous of the relationship that Gabby had with that
I don't
one
know.
girl.
I don't know if you have proof of that. I don't think that's true at all. No, if I'm
Okay.
not trying to be disrespectful to you, I'm just saying, like, I want to guard what we're saying with facts, and
Mhm.
I've found from my own personal research the opposite.
All right.
So do you have a source for that?
Only I did, but it's not there anymore. It was on what do you call it, Instagram, and he had it written there that he doesn't like that he didn't find that appropriate, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah, I understand you have theories, and it could work out to be true. And so we do appreciate your viewpoint, and we appreciate you calling in. And I don't know much about crime families, and so that's something to think about. But when it comes to some of this, I want to make sure we're safeguarding and making sure that what we're saying is based on some factual stuff.
Most definitely. It's just, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, a 22-year-old this good. I'm sorry.
Now
He's
that
really
that part I agree with you on for sure.
Okay. There's some type of training that happened in his youth, or something happened, because this is just too, like, he's laughing. He's laughing with the guards. I mean, I'd be worried about my kid if he killed himself.
Yeah, or unless you know exactly where your kid is and he's going to be safe for a long time.
And yeah, they're not worried one bit.
Thank you for calling in today.
Thank you for listening, and I do apologize if I said anything outrageous. These are just thoughts in my mind. Again, as a survivor, my mind just it could go off in the wrong places. So just wanted to put it out there. I don't trust this family.
Yeah, we agree with you on that. And, all views are welcome here, but I just want to make sure we're guarding against things that are said assuredly, but I want them to be facts. So
most definitely. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Got a super chat. Hey, I'm glad to be here. I've been following this case and I found your channel. Like everyone here, I'm baffled by this case, and it helps to have a good channel to follow, discuss all the concerns, opinions, issues, and more. Well, Rita, where are you from? Are you from the Philippines? That looks like a Filipino currency. I love the Philippines. If so, literally my second favorite nation after the USA. But we're so glad that you're on the call with us today. And it's crazy to me, Gavis, that this really is the case, that it's not just a North American situation, but it's a global interest.
Yeah, and the coverage is just so sensationalized, and you and I bring it down to a grounded level so that we can actually have a talk or a discussion about it that's reasonable, right? So I think that's why people are gravitating towards this channel. So make sure you hit that like button on Tyler's stream here.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm going to add Paul to the call. Paul, how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I really think that this guy is either with a good friend or with me. He even has a fan club, which is kind of like worrisome. Because I think if he was hiding on a trail somewhere, he would have been found by now. I think he's held up in a house or an apartment somewhere, and it's going to take the maybe a reward going up higher for someone to really turn him in. That's what I believe is going on.
Well, I've dug into his past and I can't really find any friends, so I don't know if that avenue is going to work. But I do think he's being protected somewhere because he seems comfortable somehow.
Well, I noticed that on like a lot of like internet boards, he does have fans, which is kind of sickening. And I've seen a couple people say, "Oh, I would hide him if I had the chance." So it's just, you never know.
Yeah, true. You never know.
So yeah, that's just my thoughts on it, and I hope they find him soon because her poor family is just it breaks my heart as a father. I can't imagine what he's going through every night.
Yeah. Yep. Paul, thanks for calling in.
No problem. You have a good one.
Christopher, thanks for the support of the channel with the super chat. Means a lot. Eka, adding you to the call. That's not your name. Are you you're in Texas?
Yeah. That's me. How are y'all doing?
Good. You're incognito tonight. You've changed it up. You don't want people to know the real you.
Well, y'all know who I am.
When you start saying hollers again, they'll know who you are.
Well, so I totally agree with this lawyer thing being off the rails for sure. I think he is dirty for sure, and this concierge deal is pretty interesting, as the caller was saying earlier. I thought that was real interesting because I was just looking up some other stuff here on my other technology, but I've been on the other, what is it called? Gavis's thing. I can't even remember what it's called.
Twitch.
Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch.
That'd be cool if Gavis is the owner of Twitch. Gavis's thing.
Well, so I thought the bunker thing was pretty interesting. Like we have safe rooms or whatever, but I thought that was interesting. And I don't agree with respectfully, I don't agree with it being negligent homicide. But I was watching today as a theory, which I hate throwing out too many theories because I don't like giving too many ideas to people, or, because these people are watching this, but about a 1920s case where two guys had gotten off because the lawyer had pled them guilty and so it let them not have a jury. So then the judge was able to make the call himself, and then they did not have the death sentence, which is either way. But so I thought that was very interesting because these guys were 19, but for a 23-year-old, I think that he, I thought that he was with the lawyer. I had made that statement earlier in the conversation with Gavis on Twitch, and then with the money stuff, there's some really interesting clues that are going on there. But I think it definitely has to do with the dad and the mom. That day when she was in that garden, she didn't have that sleeve on her arm. And I also noticed that tree was gone.
Did she not? I thought when she was in the garden that she was wearing that sleeve.
I didn't see it. Now I might be wrong. I'm always ready to eat crow.
Where is this tree? Is it right beside those two flower beds?
It was closest to the fence. And I also did not see them bring dogs in that backyard with the FBI. So they have a fire pit. I mean, for goodness sake.
Yeah, the mom had to sleep, and I just checked.
Did she? Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's so. And she was reaching down, so there's my crow. I ate it. Gabbis, I'm with you on the rabbit thing too, because obviously, come on. I hadn't had acreage, but we've had rabbits, indoor and outdoor. Don't hate.
The only thing that I can confirm is that Tyler's fish without water would die in 24 hours.
Yeah. But no, they do not die. It takes a long time, actually. I mean, kids are kids, and they're going to not feed something.
Mm-hmm.
Goats eat, for that matter. I mean, it takes them a hot minute.
I'm always surprised at how big pet rabbits grow, because they're so tiny when people get them, and then like next thing you know, they're like the size of a dog. We got a super chat from Avery. Avery, thank you for the super chat. You said you saw on Gabby's Instagram where 3 years ago she replied to someone saying that her favorite podcast was the Morbid podcast. It seems that she was into true crime. I think whenever we've done a little bit of research into her, we've actually realized that there's a lot of stuff that I feel like maybe from osmosis was rubbed off of Brian onto her, and she was into a lot of the same stuff that many of us would deem, unacceptable for our own lives to be in it at that level, or at least worrisome if you had a friend that's all they talked about or was into. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I've watched plenty of Snapped. I haven't heard anybody, but you know what I mean? But I can, and also to the fact of, saying something about her having an alternate relationship. She may or may not be, what some, she was a 22, 23-year-old girl off experimenting. She could have been doing many things. Well, we can't speculate really on that, as well as people throwing out other ideas. No, I don't think there was any kind of paper put on a log somewhere. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, that anybody's business to speculate on the other things, that is her family's business.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I would be livid. I don't have daughters, and somebody better be glad about that.
I want to make a statement clear. I'm not saying because she was into true crime that things were creepy. It's not just true crime. It's true crime, and it's the books, and it's the artwork.
Yes.
And I'm talking about Brian specifically, and I'm saying some of the things that he was really into at an unhealthy level, I felt like she got into in the same way. Like when you're dating somebody or you're in love with somebody, their interests become your interests. It's just what happens. Like all of a sudden, you find yourself watching a chick flick. You don't want to watch a chick flick, but your girl's into it, so you do it. That's just sort of one thing that happens. All right, girls start watching football and putting, bets on what team's going to win. It's one of the things that happen. They might do it based on which is the better logo, but they're still doing it. They're still watching the game.
Can you explain one thing to me? Because and y'all are going to probably hate me for this, but what exactly was the, Bonnie and Clyde thing alluding to? Because Bonnie and Clyde were not together.
Oh, I think they were. That's why they were driving around in a car. And
the only Bonnie and Clyde that I'm fully up to date on is a little Bonnie and Clyde named Beyonce and Jay-Z. And they wrote a song called Bonnie and Clyde 2000. And I don't know much about the original Bonnie and Clyde.
Clyde was homosexual.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I know. I mean, it's not, it was confirmed though that they weren't ever actually a couple. People did think they were, but they actually rode through my hometown.
Oh.
But it was also an era where that stuff wasn't
talked about.
I think more importantly, they were going around and robbing banks and had a really fast car. I think that's the allure of whatever it was.
Okay, I just wasn't understanding that comment. So
yeah,
if
so
that
I don't
meant
know
by the or what was meant by the comment. I was trying to understand. Sorry.
Who knows? But thank you for calling in, Eka, codename Eka.
Yeah. Well, it's easier because you have another popular.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, thanks for calling in. Interesting. There's something I wanted to show you that it's not really that big of a thing, Gavis, but I don't know if you'd seen it. Somebody sent it to me today, and it's just like a small level coincidence. There's 3 books that came out in the year 2003, a 3-part series. And one of them was called Murder in Moab. Are you all right?
My brother stopped by and brought my little niece, so they're yelling at me.
Oh, well, do you need to go?
Probably. Yeah.
Well, these 3 books came out. One was called Murder in Jackson Hole, one was called Murder in the Tetons, and one was called Murder in Moab. And they came out in 2003, and I thought it was interesting. One of the books actually talks about 2 girls that were in a relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about a guy who sort of goes on a hunt that leads him to all of these places. So
crazy. Wow. Tetons, Moab, Jackson Hole. Wow.
What are the chances something like, if you scroll down to, it will tell you like a bit about the books, but book number 1 came out in March. They all came out on the same time, March 17th, 2013. But book number 1 was Murder in Jackson Hole. Book number 2 was Murder in the Tetons. And then book number 3 was Murder in Moab.
That's kind of chilling, actually. I haven't seen that.
It's like people go back, and I've seen this, like they'll play episodes from The Simpsons from like a decade ago, and it's like the stuff that was happening on The Simpsons ends up becoming reality.
Well, that's actually really weird. That guy is predicting some pretty crazy things on that Groening show. I think he does have a time machine.
Yeah, there's so many stuff on The Simpsons that ends up becoming true. But I thought that these 3 books, in light of what's happening, what are the chances, especially since Moab's only a town of 5,000 people, for it to be included in the list of books that are written? So
maybe they're related by heritage or something. I'm going to check, because this is too much of a coincidence as well.
I know.
Maybe that was a great-grandfather on the Vinci side or something.
Yeah. Go back and see, like, was this like the family tradition or whatever that that was mentioned. So somebody said that gave me goosebumps. Like, I found that to be very interesting. I actually think we should do a deep dive on some of those books, possibly, but I haven't had time to really investigate them. I don't necessarily want to read them myself, but
yeah, I tell the people looking at some of the books that Brian was reading, I say, be careful. You don't want to read those guys. So, but they're doing it, so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I know you said you had to go, so if you have to go, we appreciate you being on here for today.
Yeah, I think I should go spend some time with my family, guys. Love you all. Come see me on Twitch if you want to chase this guy.
Thanks. Sam, how are you? All right. Seemed like Sam wasn't there. Maria, how's it going?
Hi, how are you, Tyler?
Doing well. Thank you for calling in.
I am just calling in with a few notes I had.
Sure.
First of all, the bunker. I can't remember what that looked like from the video, how close that was to the pool. Is it possible that when they had the pool installed, they had that underground thing installed for like pool maintenance of the filter or something that you do underground?
I don't know. To me, the bunker thing's kind of a far-fetched.
Okay. All right. That was just one note. The second was the son. Would you turn your son in if he was guilty and you knew it? Absolutely.
Oh, I haven't checked the answer of that poll, so let me see what it is.
Okay.
The question was, would you help your kid if you knew they were guilty? 23% said yes, and 76% said no. It changed when I said that from 23 to 24%. 76% said no. I think a lot of people are voting no, but if it came down to it, they would actually help their kid. And we also don't know what Brian said.
Right. All right. The third note was about the father. and quote unquote going on the search, he was asked by the FBI, correct? To help with the search.
What the lawyer said.
Yeah. Well, my feeling there is also to separate the two, the husband and wife, and like be an informal interrogation type thing.
Yeah.
That's what I thought with that. And then the fourth thing is that I've seen a lot of people online saying that he was a quote unquote Satan worshiper. And so my question is, well, maybe he was in some blog, don't you think, or group where they all talked and fed that information together. So why couldn't he have online friends from those quote unquote groups that would jump to help him?
Yeah, I don't know if I haven't found anything that said he was a for sure Satan worshiper. If you looked at what Dog the Bounty Hunter did, he came out with a statement and said his Instagram posts were demonic, was the word that Dog the Bounty Hunter
Oh,
used.
demonic.
And I would
Okay.
agree. And there's a difference to
Okay.
me between all of the Bible actually says that Satan is the prince of this world.
Mhm.
Jesus is the King of Kings, so Jesus is king over all of it. But man, Satan's trying to steal, kill, and destroy, is what John 10:10 says. And so we live in a world that's been corrupted by the enemy. And so I think it's an influence for sure
Mhm.
from a dark side. But Satan worship is a whole nother level, and I didn't see
Yes.
anything that said that
Okay.
that's what Brian was
Okay.
doing.
Okay. Well, that's a good clarification. And the last is that I didn't get to try calling on other days where you were talking about the people who were commenting, negative things about you. And I say, don't even listen to that. And
Mhm.
especially when you quote the Bible or even pray, that's my favorite part of the show. So I
Yep.
really look forward to
Thank you for
tuning
saying
in.
that.
And just honestly, your voice is so comforting and safe, I guess I would
Yeah.
say. So it's nice to be able to listen and learn, and then also in this safe environment. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
All right.
I wanted to clear up something that you guys are talking about in the chats. About 2 hours ago or so, a body was found. It's not Brian's. There's nothing that makes people think that it was Brian's. A body was found and everybody freaks out. And if you guys go crazy in the chats, I think one of the things that's going to happen is it's going to be a rumor. It's going to become a thing where well, they found his body and they're hiding it from us. And there's no positive identification on any type of a body. And as soon as there is one, we'll talk about it. But just because a body was found in North Carolina, there's bodies that are found all over the place, just so you know. It's a death investigation that took place. And if it was the body of Brian Laundrie, probably we would have known about it. Likely what happens in these situations is they don't release the name of who the person is until they have opportunity to speak with the family. And so that's why they haven't released the name, or it's a minor. Okay. So just be really careful. Your angel says, I know that this is a sensitive subject, but do we know if all three girls were found in the same condition? We don't know, because we don't know the cause of death of Gabby. If we knew that there were a gun involved with Gabby, that would definitely link the three a lot more tightly together. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Steven, thank you. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, you're just, I appreciate you keep integrity as the foundation of this channel. You said perhaps using Proverbs 10:9 as my guide. You know what I use as the guide the whole time is the entire word of God. It's the guide for my life. It's a lamp into my feet. Okay. It's a light into my path. I hide its words in my heart so that I might not sin against God. But Proverbs 10:9 talks about walking in the integrity of the Lord, and the crooked paths will be made straight if you do that. So I appreciate you just making a statement about that. Joseph, how's it going?
What is going on, man? That's it's been going good, man. It's been hard times, and seeing all this stuff going on, and You know, my father's paralyzed from the waist down and stuff. I deal with things, you know, everybody's going through stuff and looking at what's going on, you know, I honestly, like, it's hard to believe what's going on, you know, like I know that you know, Gabby she's dead. I have not personally seen the body, you know, but I think that the parents definitely are covering up 100%. They are involved, you know, and things are, it's iffy, man. It's very, very iffy, you know, like these people are like, dude, you don't even know what's going on because we don't even know anything, you know, like we don't know nothing about what's going on. And the thing is, we probably are never going to find out what's going on because it's honestly going to wind up on a show, an unsolved mystery case, because this guy, he's gone. Obviously, he's in some type of way guilty. And
are you pretty confident you think it's going to end up in a cold case?
I think it's going to be like the Casey Anthony trial. I believe that it's going to, if they find him, you know, I feel like it's going to be like a Casey Anthony trial, you know, like it's going to go the whole shabam. But honestly, I'd rather, like, if he is guilty, honestly, he should just needs to kill himself, you know, because you putting the parents and all that through the trouble, all the trauma, you know, and it's not fair. You know, that what happened is, it's very messed up. It's very messed up. And
I pray
and the thing is that we don't even hear about this is a case that we're hearing about. They got cases every day that happens. And this is just one that actually went viral, you know.
I pray that the Petito family has an opportunity, though, to get some closure on the situation.
Definitely.
And if he ends up taking his own life, then it's going to be one of those situations where they don't get an opportunity for that. And I want to say this, like, I hope nobody kills themselves ever. And
no, it's not that I hope he don't kill himself. It's that it'll be closure for, because the thing is, if it goes to trial, then the parents are going to be seeing her dead body. They're going to be seeing what happened. They're going to be seeing the crime scene. They're going to get put through things that they don't deserve. You know, my cousin, their only son, he got crushed in between two trains, and we had to go through the funeral and all that. Parents don't deserve to go through this type of stuff.
no, it's hard, and I've been in some situations that's been really difficult that I've had to walk through families, and it's hard. It's really hard, but I think nobody's too far gone for God, and that's just the way I view it. And there's natural consequences, and so if he is involved in the homicide of Gabby, then he
makes him seem really guilty that he dipped out. He just left. You know, he's nowhere to be found. So what happened? Like, was the FBI in on it, dude? Because now, you know, with Joe Biden's in there, you know, the FBI is now back in on it. You know, when Trump was in there, the FBI was on lockdown, you know, and things weren't going on. We don't even know. We don't even have a clue of what's going on. I'm sitting here on my phone watching videos, you know, but I'm not getting nowhere. I'm not getting no closure because I want to know too.
We all want to know. That's the purpose of this channel. We're going to collectively come together and hopefully be able to find some justice for Gabby.
I think,
Joseph, hey, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. There's some other callers waiting.
Thank you for calling in. Yeah, no doubt, man. I'm glad to talk to you, man. I didn't even think you was gonna pick up my call, man.
Well, we're glad you're here, man. Thank you for calling in.
Look, hey, brother, check me out, man. I am Joe Flo, man. I'm a performing artist down here in New Orleans, brother.
Thanks for calling in.
That's definitely. You stay blessed, man.
Well, really enjoying the conversation tonight. I hope you guys are having a good time as we're sort of working through this whole thing together. If you guys can do me a favor, comment. I want to see your comments. It's easier for me to read the comments. Do you think, when we think about the situation, it's going to end up as a cold case? Why or why not? So just, if you guys don't mind, what are you guys thinking about the cold case situation? Is this going to end up being one of those things that 10 years from now we still have no closure over? Am I still going to be doing these chats with you guys publicly 10 years from now? Or is it going to be a situation where, man, within the next week, we're going to be able to figure out that things have calmed down some? I hope that we're able to, be in a situation where there's an end to this, and either there's the connection clearly tied to Kylan and Crystal or not, and then we can be able to help close the gap on that one too. I noticed that Gabby's dad said today in an interview that they've had such a hard time dealing with all of the media and doing interviews and trying to get the foundation on the ground that they really haven't had some moments to grieve. And he said today, he's like, now the grieving begins. And so they're going to begin the grieving process. That's difficult. We're going to be praying for them. Pray that the Lord is with them. The Bible teaches that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted. So I pray that they sense the presence of God more closer than they've ever felt it before. Sam, how are you? Are you here this time?
Hello, I'm here.
Good.
Okay, you can hear me. I was like, oh, I didn't click it fast enough because I was like running over to my computer as my dog
The
was
first time, yeah, like
shitting.
I thought you weren't there, and so then this time I did.
I was like, oh, I've been waiting. Okay. So, first of all, I just want to say, with you guys on streaming and then watching BJ, and I don't know who his co-host is, but sometimes your audio lined up, and I think it would be hilarious to do a dub.
That's funny.
Because I'm just like, oh, that works. But with the drone thing, yeah, it only works if you are launching it using the GPS and the app. Otherwise, you can't get GPS tracking. That's not how they work.
On drones?
Yes.
There's some pretty sophisticated
Gabby,
drones. There's a guy in my community that actually builds drones for the government, and it's a really sophisticated rig.
But they don't work unless, like, GPS wise, they don't work unless you're actively using it.
I don't know for sure. Maybe
well,
the ones
know
that you and I can
sure.
buy from Best Buy.
I mean, I don't buy them for Best Buy, but
I'm just saying, like, the ones, if you and I went to go buy them, might not have the same abilities as the ones that trillions of dollars of government and government spending military intelligences went into.
Okay, well, that's fair, but I have a hard time with that one. Just because, like, I work with them, so that's why I have a hard time with it. That's all. The timeline changes. So you have the women out in the desert, right, that got murdered. She mentions again, he had mentioned, or whoever had mentioned in the report, that they were littering.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're pulled over, mentions, oh, I don't want water from plastic. It's like, dude, you're in the desert. Doesn't make sense. So then, to save money, he flies home from Teton area or wherever to the storage unit, and she does 5 to 6 days in a Marriott, which is probably way more expensive than a flight ticket.
Oh, I'm certain that the hotel for 5 days was more expensive than the flight on Frontier Airlines to go home.
Yeah, it makes no sense. If they're going to say you're going to save money, that's not what you're going to do. You know?
There's two stories about that, and I can understand if they were in a long-term contract on a storage unit that they either had to renew for a year or cancel.
But would both names even be on it because they're not married?
I feel like you could have it in one name and they share it, or you can have it in two names. You don't have to be married.
Can you? I feel like there's very little things you can share without a joint partnership
I mean, it's just a
in the
storage
U.S.
unit somebody's renting out. It's like, I feel like me and my friend right now could go and rent out a storage unit together.
I mean, yeah, but wouldn't you believe though, if it was majority of her things, don't you think she would
It'd be
want
like,
to?
can two people who are not married rent a house together? Yeah,
Oh no, I do that right now. But
it's just a storage unit.
what I'm saying is the fact, just because she becomes like, homicide, murdered, this is where it becomes a little weird. Because why fly home to deal with that instead of just waiting?
Cassie said that they flew home. He flew home because of the fight that took place. Joe said that Gabby had money. So I think there's parts of it that don't really fully add up. And I think we underestimate sometimes some of the intelligence. Hey, there's lots of people waiting to get on too. So I'll let you have one more thought, and then I gotta hop onto another caller.
Okay. Well, the other thing I was going to mention is the fact that law enforcement had mentioned that, yes, we know where Brian is on the day that Gabby was reported missing.
Correct. They were. We played the video earlier. They said they were surveilling them.
Oh, well, clearly not enough.
Yeah, clearly not enough. That's the point we were making. Like, clearly they were not surveilling them enough because somehow he got away. So.
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep you. I'm trying to keep it short. But the other weird thing I find is that the business domain name change on their quote unquote family camping trip. They changed the domain name to their businesses.
Yeah, I don't know about that. And maybe they were charging their business for it. You can do that. Helps with tax purposes.
It's through GoDaddy. If you want to look it up, go ahead. But I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of weird things happening with this. So, anyways, all right. Have a good night.
Thanks, Sam.
There we go.
Gorilla, what's up?
What's going on, everybody? How are y'all?
It's just me that you're talking to. I'm doing well.
It's wonderful. Listen, I'm not going to say anybody's going to agree with what I have to say, but just hear me out for a second, okay? Two things. Why is nobody talking about Cuba? It's 238 nautical miles from the edge of Sarasota, Florida. Why wouldn't it make more sense that his uncle, who is proven to be a yacht salesman, take a yacht, go into international water, and get him into Cuba? Cuba has no jurisdiction or extradition treaty with the United States. Nobody's talking about it.
We've talked about Cuba quite a bit.
Well, every time, if you go to Google right now and you look it up, right? Every story that's posted about him going to Cuba gets wiped off within an hour. It's not on there anymore. It makes no sense. The second thing is, if you're running a business out of your house that's a $5 million business, you wouldn't shut it down and lose all that money. My personal opinion is, and this is where everybody's going to disagree with me, I don't think Gabby's dead. I think Gabby took the opportunity when he flew back home to contact police. I personally believe that the police have Gabby, which is why they've never released her body, and they have not charged him with murder, right? She's helping them. There's a family secret somewhere. There's too many people involved and nobody talking. And I have a large group of following that we've discussed this for days now. And for some reason, the idea that he would go to a swamp area, the idea that her body would be exposed for 3 weeks and animals wouldn't try to remove it, and the fact that the only way she was ID'd was from a piece of a sweater she was wearing. Now, let me tell you just a little bit of my background. I worked in the funeral
Well, I
industry
want to
for
just stop you right there, just because I personally think it's disrespectful in a way to say to a stepfather who stood over his dead daughter's body and been on the news crying about it that
Hold on, he
she's
never
no
saw her
longer alive.
body.
No, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you. And again, it's my channel, so please don't tell me to hold on whenever I'm in the middle of a thought. But I just don't. I just think it's not. It's just not a good thing to say whenever every single level of authority comes
Mhm.
out and says that it was a dead body. They've been
Mhm.
very clear why they haven't allowed the autopsy to be released. And then
Mhm.
if you went down the rabbit hole that you're going down, that it just ends up being we can't trust the government or anything they say, and we never really landed on the moon and the earth is flat. And I just don't
No.
want to go down that on this channel. We stick to facts on this channel.
Right.
And I appreciate you calling in, Gorilla. You're welcome to call in if you have thoughts that are more substantiated in facts. Sean, how are you?
Hey, Tyler, doing well. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for calling in today.
Thank you. So yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about the literature that Brian had been reading and Gabby had been reading, and it's something that I've been thinking about. Like I myself, as a Christian, like I can like sometimes read books about crime and things like that. It doesn't so much bother me, but movies really bother me. And I was just wondering, do you really believe that like something could like take over someone's mind if they consume too much of like, I don't know, bad literature, that it could somehow influence them to do things that they're not aware of, like they lose control of their own minds?
You know, whenever I was in high school, me and my friends got together and we watched the 3 Jason Bourne movies back to back to back. And the next day, my friend asked me to drop something off on their mailbox. And I felt like I was Jason Bourne. Like I was like that little theme song that plays. I was like playing it in my head. I was like, all right, I got the package. I'm going to, it was just a softball. That's all I was doing. So I do think there's an element of like what we consume ourselves into, that becomes a reality of who we are. And of course, if you shut out every single other type of influence that's either fictional or maybe even nonfiction, but it's sort of what you're consumed with, then yeah, it sort of, I think it does. It wraps around in your mind.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I had actually asked my boss, who really enjoys, horror and all these other things, and I'd asked him, like, has he ever felt like compromised at any point? And he was saying, like, no, I just find it entertaining, and I kind of find it humorous. And I was telling him, well, it's probably because you have maybe more of a sound mind that you wouldn't necessarily do anything. But I don't know. It just kind of, it makes me think that, at some point, if you are consuming too much of a bad thing, that it can have devastating effects on your life, and maybe people, he wasn't aware of, what he was really involving himself with.
What we put in our ears and what we put in our eyes finds its way as a resting place in our heart, and what's hidden in our heart comes out of our mouth, and it comes out of our action. Before we do anything, it begins as a thought in our mind. Think about the dream of an oak tree sleeps in an acorn. The dream of whatever life we choose to become, the Bible teaches, as a man thinks, so he becomes. The dream of whatever we dream to happen, it begins in our thought life. And that includes good and bad. So we got to be very careful with the influences that we have. And I think you're making a good point. And it goes back to what I was saying, whenever we had looked at his Instagram in combination with the books that he was reading, in combination with his artwork, in combination with the kinds of stuff that he was putting on his Pinterest, in combination with the stuff that they were saying is their favorite podcast, all of it add up to be a really high level of influence than like what you're saying. Well, I've read a crime book and it didn't really get me. Well, that's okay. It's just one, it's like one thing. But when it becomes the totality of your influence, you end up living in that a bit.
Yeah. And I also was going to ask, with you and Gavis's like involvement, all the research that you've done, like I know that you as a Christian probably have, a way to disengage easily from it, but does it ever keep you from sleeping at night? Or I don't know, has Gavis ever mentioned that, like, some of this information, just everything that you've been, trying to discover, like, does it somehow affect your mind at all?
Well, I have, since I've had this situation that's been going on with my health and with my heart, I haven't had a good opportunity to get good rest since that happened anyways. It's not necessarily related to this, but sleeping for me hasn't been that good since I've had COVID. But I know Gavis, it has impacted him in that way. Like it's really become something that he feels a conviction about finding, a result to, and and I think really what it's doing is it's igniting something that he's called to do for his life a little bit, is research some of these cases and try to figure out who's responsible in the cases that people sort of give up on.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, definitely really appreciate the work that you guys are doing and, shedding light on this. And I'm sure you're probably, working on other cases too, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, thank you so much for the time, and thanks for your perspective as always.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Charlotte, thank you for the super chat. You say you are an inspiration. Thank you. Do we know what Gabby told her dad as far as why she was staying at the hotel for several days? I'm going to say he's never came out and said that. I would guess that he knows that, and the FBI told him not to talk about it. That's my guess. I don't know that for sure, but if I had a little inkling, then that's definitely what I was going for. That guy, by the way, that I dismissed from the call, he was saying things, in my opinion, that were disrespectful if somebody from the family had stumbled upon this. I know there are people who are close to the family that watch this. You can't be doing that kind of stuff. It's like when people were trying to say the thing that happened at Sandy Hook wasn't real. Well, it was real to the families that were involved with it. It was real to the families that were involved with it. And because there was something fake, this is the problem that I was having with some of these other YouTube channels. People allow things that are completely false to work its way into the internet ecosystem. And then, listen, people read a headline and then they think it's a reality, and then it just perpetuates, and nobody can link it back to an actual source. It's why we keep saying on this channel, send us the source. Thank you for sharing that. Could be true. Send us the source, because if we don't have the source, then we don't know if that thing is actually true. Okay. Like I remember, like my grandmother one time, she read something one of my friends had posted on Facebook, and it was a joke, and she thought it was totally real. And she called me and was like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "He was joking. It was just a joke." Totally didn't get it. It's like when The Onion and different satire articles started to come out, people thought they were absolutely true. I saw one of a church thing where like somebody was going down a water slide on the stage, and like, this is how this church is baptizing now. Totally a joke. And everybody started talking smack about that church. Well, it was totally a dishonest thing. And I think that guy that I dismissed from the call was on here not because he wanted to have a good conversation. It was because he was trying to get people to go over to whatever channel he had. I got a big following over here. All my people, we've been talking about this. All right. This is a channel where we're trying to find justice for Gabby. It's a channel where we're trying to find Brian. This isn't a free opportunity for you to come and make a commercial for whatever thing you have going on. Okay. Carly, thanks for calling in. How are you?
I'm good. That guy sounds like maybe him and his followers are kind of wackadoodles. It's fine. That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I think there's really good-hearted, well-meaning people that get wrapped up in things they see online because they don't know that it's not true.
Yeah, you're right. Like the Onion articles, those are just insane. It amazes me that people read some of these captions and they're like, "This is real," and I'm like, "Did you read it at all?"
Even in some of this stuff, like that one YouTuber, I don't want to say his name because I don't want to talk bad about it, but he's commented on one of my videos, unfortunately. And another YouTuber that I do have more respect for has totally ousted him, but he was totally making things up to get the views so he could earn money. He's doing it as a way specifically so he could earn money. Somebody told me he made $50,000 this month talking about these cases. Totally to me disrespectful to the family that you would lie and you would actually harm the situation. So
that is super gross. I agree. So where are we at right now? Because I've been in and out. I'm still at work. I should have been off 2 hours ago, and I've been just kind of like paying attention a little bit. But that guy caught my attention, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, what is happening?"
And I think we're just like we've been talking about a lot today, but one of the major things that a lot of people have been thinking about is Stephen Bertolino, the attorney, and just their general thoughts on him.
Oh, I heard somebody said something about he might be a concierge attorney, and I'm like, well, he's Italian, so I could see that 100%. I'm not gonna say that's what it is, but like that's what that sounds like to me. And so
Somebody called in, was like, is he a part of a crime family? So
it wouldn't even surprise me with a name that's that aggressively Italian.
yeah. And so I guess Roberta Laundrie is Italian by nature too. So
that, yeah. But see, so is Gabby Petito.
See, there you go. I maybe a lot of Long Island is. Who knows?
Oh yeah, the 70s told us that. But I don't know. I can't help but think that I have this feeling that Brian's not with us anymore. It doesn't seem like he can't be this good at hiding.
Not without help.
Not without help. And you're right. I don't see anything about him having any of his own personal friends, so I don't know who would be helping him that wouldn't immediately be like, do you see how much that reward money is? You should call this in.
By the way, if you have an Italian last name, that doesn't mean you're a part of a crime family. That's what nobody is saying. Nobody's
Absolutely
saying
not.
that. It was just like,
that seems a little fishy to me.
The mob is rooted from, they call it the Italian mob. Okay, that's why people are saying that. Nobody is saying anything bad about Italians. I personally love Italians.
I'm Italian, so
To make a statement, I'm
Not
in
at all.
favor of Italians. Nobody meant anything wrong with that. They were just saying this guy seems slimy.
A little bit.
The
Yeah.
mob is rooted from an Italian mob family. That's the connection there. Okay, that's it. People in the chat don't need to be reading.
No, I'm
into things.
Italian. I swear I'm not saying anything bad about us. It's fine. It's just, it is the Italian mob, yes. Usually.
So I'm sorry if anything came out the wrong way.
Sorry, yeah. What else did I want to say? There was something else, but I just still at work. You might be able to hear the kid in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a nanny, so I think that's it for now. But again, sorry about the Italian thing. Didn't mean anything bad by that.
Me neither. I don't even truly remember 100% of what I said, but I know I didn't mean anything inappropriate about Italians. So sorry about that. Thank you, Carly, for calling in.
Hopefully they find this guy if he is still here.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. Bye.
Karen, thank you for the super chat. You're doing a good work here. God bless you. Thank you, Karen, for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Appreciate to have your support. Honestly, guys, there was no big statement trying to be made about the Italian thing. Sorry if it came out that way, but don't read too far in depth about stuff. Shelly, how are you?
Hi, Tyler. Thank you for allowing me to come back on.
Sure.
Sure, thanks. There was one thing I said earlier, and I realized that I was not clear about that when I was talking about how some of our younger women experience some depression when they take these long trips. And the reason I was mentioning that, and it wasn't anyway related to the possibility of suicide in this case at all. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because there's a history and a connection that jumped in my spirit when I watched the interview, or I'm sorry, where the police stopped them and we got to see several different cameras and angles. And did you notice that she was very apologetic about everything and claiming everything was her fault? And from the psychiatrists, counselors, that's always a red flag. Even if it's just a situational depression over a big fight, and my career may kind of go down the tubes because this is not going to work. That's often people are just very apologize for things they didn't do, and it has to do with that, the crushing of the spirit. In my opinion, when you're around someone that for very long, and they have quite a dark side.
Oh yeah, it's for sure difficult to be on a road trip, an extended road trip in that tight environment with somebody that long. So thank you, Shelly, for calling in
Yes.
and clarifying your thoughts on that. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you.
Mhm.
Clark the Doberman, how are you?
I'm good. Hey, couple of things I wanted to let you know that I am a real person. I am not the Wisconsin dog man.
I was gonna say, like, is this the world's first talking dog? Like, what
Yeah.
is going on?
I can't help you with the Wisconsin dog man mystery or anything. But yeah, I've noticed that this channel is really good at trying to stick with the facts, and that's really good. I think that, of course, hypothesizing and coming up with a lot of different theories, it can be good, getting all these thoughts out there, and you can discount or say, yeah, this makes sense, and start, weeding things out.
You'd be shocked at how many people are angry that we try to stick to the facts. It's the world we live in that they would rather sensationalize a topic than actually try to find justice. All of us genuinely, I think, want to find justice for Gabby and find Brian, but at the same time, it's like a car accident. People can't help but look at it,
Right.
even though they know it's a bad thing. It's like, even though we know fake news is a bad thing, you can't help but look at it and try to believe it's true.
Right. But yeah, I've noticed, well, a lot on other channels and stuff, of course, too, because they don't stick too much to the staying with facts and stuff. But I also find myself doing it a lot, is making statements, saying things like, well, his family definitely are hiding him, or they definitely got him out and stuff like that, rather than I think they did, or it looks like this. So my question to you as a pastor, maybe you can help myself and the others in the chat here, is when do we start treading on bearing false witness by some of these statements of, oh, they definitely, helped him get away, when we don't really know? I mean, it appears like he did, but when do we cross that line and we're actually starting to bear false witness? If
Yeah,
you
I
could help
think
us.
like there needs to be clarification. Like, I've tried to do that to the best of my ability on this channel. Be like, hey, I don't know this to be true. This could have happened, right? And I think if people don't have a foundation that holds that, one of the 10 commandments holds that as a value, then they don't care at all, and they they cross over it a
Right.
long time ago, right? And I know that there are certain situations where lawyers or attorneys are allowed to lie on behalf of their clients, and so I think there's elements of that are taking place on purpose from Bertolino and the Laundrie family, because it's how they can construct their case.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I find myself doing it so occasionally too, like, oh, they definitely helped him, when we don't really know that. I can't really state that as a definite thing, of course, but just for us to help us understand, when do we cross that line and we're actually bearing false witness now, is
Yeah, absolutely. I think whenever, sometimes it's done unintentionally, and there's, I think,
Oh, yeah.
grace for that. But when you're intentionally going and stealing some footage from another
Oh.
channel and passing it off as Brian's Instagram
Yeah.
live video,
Yep.
and then laughing about it when you're confronted about it, then that to me is somebody who's very loose on what their moral parameters would be.
Oh, definitely. Yep. Okay. I just thought, we should all try to be a little bit careful with that, is all.
Thank you, Clark.
Yep.
Well, praise the Lord about just good discussions and the fact that he was able to even call in and mention that. And I think it's just a word of caution for all of us that we'd be really careful in that way. We had so far, we've had 10 people join the Feller fam today. If we have 13 people join, then that means we get another emoji. I hope you guys like the Gavlock emoji that we released today, but we have Alexis and Karen and Brian and Rosie and Ron and Susan and the Swag Channel, Avery, Steven, Maureen, all of you guys today. I just want to celebrate. Thank you for joining the Feller fam. Here on YouTube, you're a part of an elite group of people who care about finding the facts and doing it with integrity along the way. So thank you so much for doing that. It means a whole lot. I love seeing your guys' comments coming into people are saying, in my heart, I truly believe that Brian had passed away. I think, like, the further that we get away from the beginning of this case, the more that kind of thought becomes a reality. Linda says this is like a game of Clue. A gazillion people are speculating. I agree. A gazillion people are speculating about this situation. Amber says, I don't understand why we would just leave her uncovered for the elements if he loved her at all. I don't understand that either. Like I don't know. The relationship might not have been abusive. Possible. I mean, I'm not saying it's true, but at this point, we don't know enough. There's a lot of things that could be possible. So what do we do to make this world a safer place? I got some thoughts on that, but I don't have time to get into it because it's a complex answer to me. No sympathy for him at all, given in those previous calls. I think people are losing their sympathy because he's on the run so much. Personally, my thought. One day people don't want police. The next day they don't do enough. What do you guys think about that? I feel it is that way. There's a lot of things that are that way. Like one day they don't want police. Next day, police are not doing enough. But I agree with what Dr. Phil was saying. Like the conversation is becoming that we don't need only police officers handling certain levels of situation. So when there's DV, SA, other levels of abuse that involve law enforcement, if we had people that were specialists and trained in those areas and not necessarily trained in dealing with, criminals in the sense that they're robbing or whatever other things criminals do, then it would be great to have, somebody that is a psychotherapist that could help come in the situation and really trained on knowing all the nuances of what to ask, and how to be present and really decipher what's happening in the situation. Tiffany, are you there? All right. Tiffany joined and then she wasn't there. Well, I appreciate all you guys joining today. There's a lot still to talk about, but I think I'm going to end it after I show you guys these books one more time, because I thought it's a strange coincidence about these books that they came out a long time ago, and one of them is called Murder in Jackson Hole, one of them is called Murder in the Tetons, and one of them is called Murder in Moab. And when you read the descriptions of them, some of them are eerily familiar, and not all of them, but again, even to mention Moab, like, I don't know. To me, it's kind of a crazy situation. So, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Tyler. How you doing, buddy?
Doing well. Thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts today?
Well, I got a few things on my mind here. People speculating the bunker and stuff. I'm just wondering, how's he... do they have an unlimited supply of food? And do they have where he can, bathe and cook food? Wouldn't the bunker would have to have some kind of ventilation system of some sort to, bring in fresh air so he don't run out of O2? You kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I thought about that, and the only thing that would make sense is, like, number one, I don't think there's a bunker personally. Other people do. Grizzly True Crime does a great job of talking about it. So I suggest if you guys are on the bunker boat to go over to her channel and listen to her case for it. But if there was a bunker, which I don't think there was, but if there was a bunker, hypothetically, it has some level of attachment to the house, or hypothetically, at night, they somehow get him from the bunker into the house, one or the other.
Okay. Well, another thing about the Appalachian Trail that people's been talking about, myself included, there's a lot of caves in those mountains. And if he heard a chopper, like a police chopper or any kind of chopper that would have some kind of heat, pick up your body heat and stuff, he can duck into one of those caves, and I think he would be undetectable. And here's another thing. Here's another fact coming from a buddy of mine that's hiked that whole entire mountain range, is all year long inside of some of those caves, depending on how far you go into them, all season long, even during the winter time, they stay from anywhere from 65 to about 73, 74 degrees all year long. And in the Appalachian Mountains, he's got plenty of firewood, food, from plants and wild game and stuff and so forth. So, I mean, he could live off the grid in those mountains and be undetectable and still not freeze to death of hypothermia.
Yeah, totally possible. And he can even have one of those blankets that reflect his body temperature back onto him.
Yeah, most definitely. And another thing I was thinking of, this is the last one, is I really haven't heard anybody talk about what his appearance could be as of right now, like 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, 10/9/21. I mean, if he hasn't been eating, he's sweating a lot and walking a lot, he's going to get skinnier.
There
If
was
he,
an artist that came out with a picture of what he possibly
yeah, I
looks like.
seen that. Yeah, I seen that. I mean, his beard's going to be thicker, or it's either going to be shaved off. He's going to wear, if he goes to a local village or town, he's going to be disguised either with a bald cap and a face mask.
Yep.
I mean, he's going to be incognito. You know what
Yep.
I mean?
Yep. I would say he's
So,
probably lost some weight too. So
yeah, so I mean, he's may have walked past some people on that trail. That's where he's at. Just a speculation.
Yep.
No disrespect to your channel. You're doing a great job, but they may have passed him and never even knew it was him.
Yep. Do you think he's watched any of these videos?
It depends on the cell phone coverage out in that area.
Oh yeah.
You know, if he's getting 4G data and stuff, yeah, I'm 100% believer that he could be watching, us right now.
I hope he calls in if he is.
Me too, brother. Me too. And I think you should keep on doing this for the future. I mean, because I know this might sound a little dark. I'm not nowhere near that type of person. I'm a Christian, a good-hearted Christian, but I mean, this is going to be a really big part of history of 2021.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Mike, thank you
So,
for calling in today.
take her easy, brother.
Bobby, what's up, man?
Hey, man, I won't keep you long. I know you're wrapping up, but I just had a couple thoughts. One, you'd mentioned, or somebody had mentioned a little bit earlier, thought it might be unlikely that he was out there without receiving some sort of help. And one thing I just, I got to think about it. First of all, just the massive, size of this thing. I did the math on it, and you know how long it takes to drive from here to Nashville.
Yeah, I've done that a few times.
6 times. If you were to drive to Nashville and back from here 6 times, that would equal the Appalachian Trail. Actually, it was 6.08.
Oh wow!
And so I just started Googling, just how many people go missing in general. And one of those stories that popped up was a lady from, I think it was 2013. I think her last name was Largay, or Largay, I believe. And it said that she had survived for 26 days and had journaled it. And her husband, initiated the search, with authorities and everything. The second day she went missing. So like 25 of that days, this is a person that wanted to be found.
Mm-hmm.
And and nobody,
And
found.
nobody
I
could
didn't.
find her for almost a month. Yeah.
Well, they actually ended up being 2 years later before they found her body because she died.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but she journaled, for 26 days. It showed that she was alive for at least that long anyway.
Was she like a survivalist? Was she like up to speed on how to get food and?
I don't know, anything about, her history or anything like that, but just the idea of how hard it is to find somebody that wants to be found, and if you take someone that that doesn't want to, obviously, maybe he's not even receiving help. Maybe he is out there by himself. Is one thing. And the other thing, just real quickly, as we were just talking about thoughts that enter your mind, and that one thing that I listen to music every night when I'm sleeping, and it's amazing how often I will dream about some song, well, for example, there was one night I was listening to, it was For Him. This was a long time ago. And I actually dreamed that I was at a For Him concert, and I was just thinking about it the next day, just how much, even subconsciously, I never made a choice to put myself there, but how much that became a part of my thoughts the next day.
Yep.
And it absolutely matters what you take in.
My nephew was at my house, and we were watching John Crist comedy like special or something. I forgot, like on Amazon Prime or something. And he was making jokes, and my nephew fell asleep, and then he woke up the next morning. He's like, I had this crazy dream, and he was like, Mr. Wilder, which was a teacher from a school, said, and then he was like verbatim telling the jokes that John Crist was saying. It was like that. That was the thing we were watching when you were sleeping. So I think that happens sometimes. We don't even realize it.
You bet. All right, man. I didn't have anything else. Just you guys keep it up. You're doing an awesome job. Look forward to seeing you again, man.
Thanks, Bobby. We'll hang out soon.
You bet. We'll see you.
Bobby and I have been friends for a long time, so it's cool to have him call in. Somebody just emailed me this, and we were talking about those books earlier, and Brian and Gabby's anniversary, according to her Instagram, was March 17th. Those books came out on March 17th. So that's a weird coincidence that the release of those 3 books, the Murder in Moab books, released on March 17th. The Murder in Grand Teton book released on March 17th, which is the anniversary of Brian and Gabby. Sort of just an interesting little side note. There's nothing to say that they're connected, but what again, another coincidence that took place in that way. It's just really bizarre, in my opinion. Very bizarre. All right. Well, I'm going to close out for the night. I have church in the morning anyways, and I would much be glad for myself, I guess, if I had a lot of good rest for church tomorrow. And some of you guys, I think, watched online last week for my church service. That was great. The website is www.m1.church/stream. If you're interested in watching, we'd love to have you join our online community for our church service tomorrow. And just good night, everyone. I bless you in the mighty name of Jesus. I bless you with his favor, that he would surround you with his favor like a shield. Psalm 5:12.